Chapter 610. Poison into the water source. 1 Divine Realm. 100,000 mountains. The red-robed woman slowly arrived at a room in the inn. She still couldn't accept what had happened yesterday. Why did he and another woman? Due to her vexation, the first thing the red-robed woman did after waking up was to leave the happy red pavilion. At this moment, the woman in red's voice transmission jade pendant also lit up. Looking at the jade pendant on her waist, the red-robed woman also injected a trace of true essence into it. Then an old voice came from inside. Hongi, I heard that you spent last night with that young man at the Happy Red brothel? When the woman in red heard the voice of the Pill Soul Sky, she immediately picked up the jade pendant in her hand and said to it, Grandpa, you're out of seclusion. Last night On the other side of the jade pendant, Pill Soul Heaven heard the woman in red's hesitant expression. There was another burst of laughter. Hongi, I know you're shy, so I won't tease you. If you suffer any grievances at his place, you can tell Grandpa. Grandpa will help you teach him a lesson. Also, when are you going to bring him here to see Grandpa? At this time, Pill Soul Heaven also revealed his purpose. When the red-clothed woman heard the words of the Pill Soul Sky, she stammered, Grandpa, I might have messed things up. The woman in red's voice slowly traveled over. On the other side, Pill Soul Sky was clearly stunned for a moment. You messed up? What happened? Tell Grandpa slowly. When the red-robed woman heard Pill Soul Heaven's voice, she continued, I didn't sleep with Sir last night. No. Then who are you sleeping with? At this moment, Pill Soul Sky's voice sounded even more surprised. According to Su Tian's report, the commotion in Red Shirt's room last night was very big. When the red-robed woman heard the Sky of Pill Soul's words, she said to the Sky of Pill Soul in embarrassment, With another woman. After saying that, perhaps because she was shy, the red-dressed woman directly hung up the jade pendant. At the same time, on a quiet mountain peak in Treasure Pill Heaven, seeing that the jade pendant in his hand had lost its light, Dan Huntian knew that he had lost contact with the woman in red. Whoosh! Dan Huntian slowly crushed the voice transmission jade pendant in his hand into pieces. At this moment, Su Tian, who was standing behind him, also knelt down in front of him when he saw his appearance. Pavilion Master, please calm down. The words of the lady in red had clearly entered Su Tian's ears. Last night, he had also been monitoring the entire room. He did not dare to probe too much. After all, she was his young miss. He did not expect to make such a big mistake. At this moment, Dan Huntian also kicked him. Bang! After being kicked by Pill Soul Sky, Su Tian's figure also flew out. Useless trash. Dan Huntian looked at Su Tian and said slowly. He originally thought that Xiao Changtian and the woman in red had made up. She could bring him to her territory. But she did not expect that the plan she had planned for so long would be ruined. At this moment, Su Tian stood up from the ground without any complaints. He still looked at the Sky of Pill Soul respectfully. Get ready. Follow me to meet that person. At this moment, Pill Soul Heaven was also looking at the direction of the divine world, as he slowly said to Su Tian. At the same time, in the inn, Lung Mei was in Lung Xiaoxiao's room. At this moment, there were tears in the corners of her eyes. What happened last night was a huge blow to her. Lung Xiaoxiao didn't know what to say. His own sister was actually with another woman in Yihong brothel. At this moment, Lung Mei also slowly said to Lung Xiaoxiao, Sister, if you want to call me your lord, it's all because of that red specter. I don't think she has any good intentions. Lung Xiaoxiao heard Lung Mei's words and comforted her. At this moment, a series of sounds came from Lung Xiaoxiao's room door. Then, Lung Xiaoxiao slowly opened the door to her room. Lung Xiaoxiao said with a smile, Senior. Xiao Changtian saw Lung Xiaoxiao. He glanced around the room and found Lung Mei hiding behind. He also slowly said to them, Miss Lung, I feel that we have been out for some time. I will return to the island. Lung Xiaoxiao heard Xiao Changshan's words and said slowly, All right, Senior. Xiao Changtian heard Lung Mei's words and left slowly. After what happened last night, Miss Lung Mei really needed a good rest. After Xiao Changtian left, Lung Xiaoxiao looked at Lung Mei and sighed. After Xiao Changtian left, Dan Huntian and Su Tian slowly appeared in the town. Arriving at the small town, Pill Soul Heaven was also the first to arrive at the inn. Upon seeing the red-clothed lady, Dan Hun Tion slowly said to her, "Hongyi, grandfather is here." When the red-robed woman saw Dan Hun Tion also come to his side, she slowly said to him, "Grandpa, sob sob sob." He cried in the arms of the Pill Soul Heaven, who patted his back. "Grandpa is here. I'll leave the rest to you. You go back first." As he said this, Dan Hun Tion slowly said to Su Tian behind him, "Su Tian, arrange for someone to bring Miss back." "Understood." Su Tian responded slowly when he heard Dan Huntian's words. Following that, under Su Tian's lead, the red-clothed woman also slowly headed towards Treasure Pill Sky. After sending off the red-clothed woman, Su Tian slowly walked in from outside. At this moment, Pill Soul Heaven also took out a bottle of pills from his bosom. "Su Tian, think of a way to put this in this village. Don't mess it up this time." "Yes." Su Tian responded as he took the jade bottle from Dan Hun Tion. "I won't let you down." Hearing Su Tian's words, Dan Hun Tion waved his hand at him. This was the poison he had refined when he was in seclusion. This poison did not have much effect on mortals, but it was a fatal threat to powerful people. The stronger one was, the greater the damage one would receive after consuming the poison. According to Dan Hun Tion's estimation, if Xiao Chang Tian was a peak immortal emperor, he would probably end up dead. "This time, I want to see how you're going to break my trap." The woman in red's trap was broken by Chang Tian. Dan Hun Tion was not convinced. At this time, Su Tian also poured poison into the town's water source. Chapter 611. There's something wrong with this water. One divine realm. 100,000 mountains at this moment. On the island of the 100,000 mountains, the great sun immortal was rushing into Xiao Changshan's room. "Senior, bad news." Hearing the anxious voice of the great sun immortal, Xiao Changtian slowly walked out of the room. Looking at the great sun immortal in front of him, he said slowly, "Taoist big sun, what's wrong?" The great sun immortal was a little out of breath at this time. He panted and said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, bad news. I wonder what happened in the small town outside the 100,000 mountains. This morning, many townspeople were infected with a strange disease. They all said that they were possessed by the 100,000 mountains. Right now, many townspeople have come to the 100,000 mountains to pray." Xiao Changtian heard the words of the great sun immortal and hurriedly walked out. "Taoist big sun, bring me my first aid kit." The great sun immortal looked at Xiao Changtian, who had already run out, and walked into his room. He carried a wooden box out of the room and walked out of the 100,000 mountains. Soon, Taoist big sun and Xiao Changtian arrived outside the 100,000 mountains. Seeing the townspeople lying on the ground, Xiao Changtian quickly walked to one of the townspeople. "Immortal Daong first aid kit." When the great sun immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he quickly handed the medicine box to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian immediately took out a silver needle from the box. According to the method given to him by the system, he performed acupuncture on the acupuncture points of the townspeople. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As Xiao Changshan's hands landed, he saw that the townspeople's expressions had stabilized. There were no signs of them worsening. "Senior, it's done." When the great sun immortal saw that the situation of the townspeople had stabilized, he spoke to Xiao Changtian slowly. Xiao Changtian shook his head when he heard the words of the great sun immortal. "No, I just stopped the deterioration of the condition slightly." Then, Xiao Changtian seemed to have thought of something and took out a few bottles of medicine from his medical kit. "Taoist big sun, distribute this to everyone. It can alleviate the illness." Xiao Changtian was holding the antidote pill in his hand. The great sun immortal took the antidote pills from Xiao Changtian and immediately distributed them to everyone. Xiao Changtian looked at the townsfolk in front of him and placed his hand on his wrist. After sensing the situation in his body, he frowned. There didn't seem to be any problems. His vitality didn't drain away. But why did her expression and appearance change so much? Xiao Changtian didn't understand. When he checked the townsman's pulse, he found that there was nothing unusual in this townsman's body. In other words, the internal condition of the townsfolk was no different from that of a normal person. However, There were no abnormalities, but these strange symptoms appeared on his face and body. Then, Xiao Changtian took out a needle and touched a strange spot on the townsman's face. There didn't seem to be any problems. Xiao Changtian carefully checked the silver needle in his hand and frowned. These abnormalities, at most, made people feel itchy and powerless. There were no life-threatening injuries. Then, Xiao Changtian turned to look at one of the townspeople beside him. She placed her hand on his wrist to feel it. This situation was almost exactly the same as the previous one. At this moment, Xiao Changtian said to the crowd, "Everyone, don't be anxious. The disease is harmless. I'll prescribe a few medicines for everyone to take first." Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, the great Sun Immortal also organized Divine King Red Cloud and the others to come over and help. After a while, Xiao Changtian said to the great Sun Immortal, "Perfected Deyang, follow me to the town to take a look." If he wanted to find a cure, he would have to personally go to the town to investigate. He had just returned from the town, and so many people had been poisoned. Xiao Changtian also smelled something unusual when the townspeople were poisoned. Therefore, he called the great Sun Immortal along. After all, if it was really a man's doing, this person's poison was so powerful. If it was an ordinary person, it would be fine. He could still deal with it by himself. However, if one was talented and was an immortal cultivator, he couldn't handle it, but he felt much more at ease with the great Sun Immortal around. Taoist Deyang nodded at him. Then, the two of them slowly ran toward the small town outside the 100,000 mountains. When Xiao Changtian went to the small town, he was in an inn. Dan Huntian slowly sat down on a chair in the room, and Su Tian sat opposite him. "Su Tian, how's the situation?" "Pavilion Master, I have already placed the poison according to your instructions. That person is already on his way to the town." When Su Tian heard Pil Soul Heaven's words, he also responded respectfully to him. Dan Huntian slowly nodded his head when he heard Su Tian's words. "Good job. Continue to monitor him, and report to me if anything happens." At this moment, Dan Huntian also waved his hand along with Su Tian. When Su Tian heard Pil Soul Heaven's words, he also immediately walked out. "You're finally here? Don't disappoint me, the game has just begun." Dan Huntian sat on the chair and muttered. At the same time, Xiao Changtian and the great Sun Immortal slowly arrived at the town. Due to the disease, the town had become very deserted. It was not as lively as the previous poetry competition. Xiao Changtian looked at the empty street and said to the great Sun Immortal beside him, "Taoist Big Sun, take me to the water source of the town." When the great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he nodded at him. Then he placed his hand on Xiao Changshan's shoulder. With a swoosh, Taoist Big Sun brought Xiao Changtian to a small forest. Xiao Changtian walked forward a few steps and saw a small stream. Then Xiao Changtian also walked toward the source of the upstream. He dipped his hand into the stream and placed it on his tongue to feel it. There was something wrong with the water. Xiao Changtian looked at the water source in front of him and immediately came to a conclusion. Then, Xiao Changtian took out a water bottle from his interspatial ring. After taking some water from the stream, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the great Sun Immortal, "Taoist Big Sun, let's go back." With a water source, he only needed to study it for a while. There shouldn't be any major problems. When the great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he also let out a whoosh. He slowly arrived at the inn in the small town. At the same time, Su Tian transmitted his voice to Pil Soul Heaven. "Pavilion Master, that person has already drunk the river water and is now in the inn." Chapter 612. The poison pill I spended several hundred years of cultivation to refine. One divine realm. 100,000 mountains. Xiao Changtian was in his room, and in front of him was a kettle that he had taken from the town. Xiao Changtian continued to study the bottle after he brought it back. At this moment, Xiao Changtian looked at the test tube in his hand and cursed. F***ck, which uncultured person did this? This water is really poisonous. At this moment, the water in the test tube had a faint green color. Obviously, it was this thing that destroyed the citizens. At this moment, the immortal De Yang walked in from outside. "Senior, the townspeople aren't that worried anymore." After returning, the great Sun Immortal went to appease the townspeople. Seeing the arrival of the great Sun Immortal, Xiao Changtian also said to him, "Great Sun Immortal, you came at the right time. There's something I need to trouble you with. This river water is indeed poisonous. I'm afraid that only you can find the culprit." He had also heard from the cultivators that their holy sense could cover a radius of several 111. He could see every movement of the creatures within a few hundred miles. If he wanted to find out who poisoned him, he still had to rely on the immortal of Great Sunday. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he also thought of something. "Senior, why don't we treat the townsfolk first, then we'll go over and wait." Xiao Changshan's eyes lit up when he heard the words of the Great Sun Immortal. "That's right, we can't alert the enemy now." He didn't know what grudge that person had with this town. Logically speaking, this small town should not be remembered by anyone. They had no money or resources. What good would it do to poison this poor countryside? If a madman were to force him into a corner, he would be driven into a corner. What if he had other poisons in his hands? With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian said to the Great Sun Immortal slowly, "Taoist Big Sun, you're right. Let's start." "Okay." When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he also responded. After Xiao Changtian studied the poison, he quickly produced the antidote. Therefore, under Xiao Changshan's medicine, most of the townspeople recovered. At the same time, in the inn of the small town, Su Tian rushed in from outside. "Pavilion Master, something has happened." Su Tian entered the room and saw Dan Huntian sitting on the seat. He said slowly to him, "Pavilion Master, that person's methods are really amazing. I found that the poison in the townspeople seemed to have been cured by him. Moreover, he seems to be fine." Hearing Su Tian's words, Dan Huntian's expression changed. Then, he closed his eyes tightly, and the true essence in his body surged as he began to sense. In his spiritual world, his connection with the poison was getting weaker and weaker. Some of the poison that had many connections also dissipated. "Looks like this person has some ability. I really underestimated him before." That's right. To be able to cultivate to this level, it wouldn't be right if he didn't have some trump cards. At this moment, Dan Huntian also believed that Xiao Changtian had used some trump card. It made his poison ineffective. Su Tian, who was in the room, saw that Dan Huntian was not furious. He said slowly to him, "Pavilion Master, what should we do next?" When Dan Huntian heard Su Tian's words, he also stood up from his seat. "The woman I asked you to control is still here, right?" Su Tian's hand gestures also changed when he heard Pill Soul Heaven's words. "Pavilion Master, over here." As Su Tian finished speaking, the Flower Fairy's figure slowly appeared in the room of the Pill Soul Sky. When the Pill Soul Heaven saw the Flower Fairy in front of him, a smile appeared on his face. A burst of vital essence surged into his palm, and then a purple pill appeared in his hand. The vital essence in his hand immediately turned into flames, refining the purple pill into threads of vital essence. Then, the Jinchi was slowly injected into the Flower Fairy's body. Cough, cough, cough. After doing all this, Dan Huntian also coughed violently a few times. He opened his palm and saw the blood in it. "Pavilion Master." Seeing Pill Soul Heaven's appearance, Su Tian also planned to go over and help. Before she could walk over, she saw Pill Soul Heaven reaching out to stop her. "Bring this woman to her. I spent hundreds of years of cultivation to condense this poison pill. I'd like to see how he's going to break through this time." Saying so, Dan Huntian also coughed violently a few times. "Pavilion Master, hurry up and do it," Dan Huntian said to Su Tian. Then he walked toward the bed and began to stabilize the restlessness in his body. Su Tian glanced at Dan Huntian, who was sleeping on the bed, and also cupped his fist at him. "Yes, Pavilion Master." Then he waved his hand, and with a swoosh, the Flower Fairy's figure followed him. Soon, Su Tian brought the Flower Fairy to the outskirts of the 100,000 mountains. Seeing that the townspeople outside the 100,000 mountains had already recovered and left, they also rushed down. "Perfected Great Sun, these townspeople have all recovered." Xiao Changtian looked at the townspeople who had recovered, and said to the Great Sun Immortal with some satisfaction, "Yes, this is all thanks to Senior's miraculous hands." Otherwise, I don't know what to do. When the great sun immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he started to flatter him. This is the result of everyone's hard work. Xiao Changtian replied. He stretched his body and planned to walk into the 100,000 mountains. Taoist big sun, he'll go back and rest first. After he was done, it was time for him to have a good rest. Taoist Daong nodded at him. At the same time, Su Tian, who was standing outside the 100,000 mountains, saw Xiao Changtian about to enter. The gesture of his right hand immediately changed, and he slowly said to the flower fairy beside him, "Go and find that person." Then, an arrow appeared in Su Tian's hand, and he threw it at Xiao Changtian. Whoosh! The arrow flew in the air and passed by Xiao Changtian. In the end, it stabbed into the stone wall of the 100,000 mountains. Xiao Changtian was also shocked when he felt the arrow that suddenly flew past him. Who is it? Come out! When the great sun immortal saw the arrows on the stone wall, he became vigilant and looked around. Taoist big sun, that person should have run away. Xiao Changtian came to the stone wall and looked at the arrow on the stone wall. There was a trace of green liquid attached to the arrow. It was the poison in the townspeople. Chapter 613. So I've been under his concealment one divine realm, outside the 100,000 mountains. Xiao Changtian looked at the arrow in his hand and said slowly to the great sun immortal beside him, "It should be the person who poisoned them." Taoist big sun, it seems that this person is very arrogant. We should find him as soon as possible. He had thought that since he had just helped the townspeople detoxify the poison, that person would not have acted so quickly. He didn't expect to provoke her so quickly. There was also the great sun immortal. With the great sun immortal's strength, it should not be a problem for him to subdue that person. When the great sun immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he nodded. It seemed that that person had also provoked Senior. If Senior attacked, would that person still have a way out? At this moment, the great sun immortal also saw a figure walking towards them. "Senior, look." The great sun immortal pointed at a figure walking towards them and said to Xiao Changtian slowly. Xiao Changtian heard the words of the great sun immortal and also looked at the direction of his finger. This figure seemed familiar. Xiao Changtian was stunned when the figure approached. "Flower fairy?" The flower fairy walked in front of Xiao Changtian and the great sun immortal, then fell to the ground with a swoosh. Xiao Changtian and the great sun immortal looked at each other. Then, Xiao Changtian saw the flower fairy's expression and said to the great sun immortal, "Taoist big sun, hurry up and send her inside." The flower fairy was obviously poisoned. The great sun immortal brought the flower fairy to Xiao Changshan's room. At this moment, Xiao Changtian also brought a bowl of medicine for her. Even though he had some unpleasant experiences with the flower fairy before, he was still very happy. However, doctors were benevolent. After all, the flower fairy was a patient. As a doctor, he still had to save her. As the flower fairy consumed the medicinal soup, her face began to turn rosy. Judging from the flower fairy's condition, she should have been poisoned like the townspeople. At the same time, Dan Huntian, who was far away in the small town inn, also sneered. "If you still think that this virus is the most primitive one, then you're too naive. I spent so much effort to refine this pill. Then how can I face everyone in the future?" While speaking, Pill Soul Heaven also changed his hand gestures. "My poison can mutate." As Dan Hunshan's hand gestures changed, the great sun immortal saw the flower fairy on the bed and said to Xiao Changtian slowly, "Senior, this flower doesn't seem normal. Look, her complexion seems to have worsened." Hearing the words of the great sun immortal, Xiao Changtian immediately walked over. He frowned when he saw the flower fairy's expression. Then, he picked up the flower fairy's arm and placed his fingers on her wrist. Sensing the changes in the flower fairy's body, Xiao Changtian said to the great sun immortal slowly, "Taoist big sun, please brew a medicine according to the prescription on my table." When the great sun immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he immediately went to do it. With his immortal cultivator skills, the great sun immortal quickly brought Xiao Changtian a bowl of medicinal soup. "Senior, what's with the flower fairy's illness?" When he came to Xiao Changshan's side, the great sun immortal asked him slowly. The flower fairy's symptoms were very similar to the other townspeople. However, it had relapsed to this extent. If the other townspeople could do the same, then it would be better for him to let the other townspeople take the medicine as soon as possible. Xiao Changtian also explained to him. The virus in this flower girl's body should have mutated, but it doesn't matter. I'm already prepared. After feeding the flower fairy the medicinal soup that the great sun immortal had brought over, the flower fairy's expression also began to soften. On the other side, Dan Hun Tian was sitting on the bed. He opened his eyes and exclaimed in disbelief. How is that possible? In his perception, his virus was slowly being dispelled. One had to know that even he could not immediately concoct the antidote. Perhaps in a sense there was no cure for his virus. As long as the poison continued to change, even if that person found an antidote, it would be impossible for him to kill it. After the poison changed, the original antidote would no longer have any effect. But now, an unbelievable scene was happening in his perception. The virus that he had refined in seclusion was actually beginning to dissipate. Could it be that his previous judgment of him was wrong? That person was a poison master? As the pill soul heaven thought of this, his heart also became a little nervous. Then Su Tian walked in from outside. Seeing the somewhat uneasy Dan Huntian, he slowly said to him, Pavilion Master, I've already followed your instructions and handed that woman over to him. I believe that we will soon hear the news of the epidemic in the 100,000 mountains. When Dan Hun Tian heard Su Tian's words, he said to him, Su Tian, have you ever seen that person personally take action? Su Tian was also stunned when he heard Dan Hunshan's sudden question. Pavilion Master, as far as I can remember, that person basically didn't make a move. I was too careless. After getting Su Tian's confirmation, Dan Huntian muttered. It turned out that she had been fooled by his deception all along. That person was able to defeat Zhuo Yuan and the others because he didn't do it himself. If it was a strong person by his side, then this person was very likely to be an alchemist like him. In order to confirm his inner thoughts, Dan Huntian slowly said to Su Tian, Go to his place now. No matter what method you use, you must find out about his cultivation base. At this point, Dan Huntian slowly walked to Su Tian's side and patted his shoulder. Su Tian, I know this mission is a little difficult for you. However, an army is trained for 1,000 days and used for a moment. If anything happens to you, I will make arrangements for your family. When Su Tian heard Pill Soul Heaven's words, his heart was touched too. Then, he knelt down in front of the Pill Soul Sky. Su Tian's cultivation was given to him by the Pavilion Master. He was working for the Pavilion Master. Su Tian is obliged. Seeing Su Tian kneeling on the ground, Dan Hun Tian nodded in satisfaction. Alright, hurry up and do it. Su Tian nodded at him when he heard what Dan Hun Tian said. Then his figure flashed, and he flew towards the 100,000 mountains. At the same time in Xiao Changshan's room, the flower fairy on the bed also became more and more ruddy. After a while, the flower fairy slowly opened her tightly shut eyes. Chapter 614. The town is safe and sound thanks to Senior's profound cultivation. One divine realm. 100,000 mountains. Xiao Changtian saw that the flower fairy on the bed had woken up and walked to her bedside. Miss Hua, you're awake. This is a decoction. Take it later. Xiao Changtian turned around and walked out. He didn't even know what his relationship with the flower fairy was like now. If he stayed here, he might cause some trouble. The flower fairy looked at Xiao Changtian, who was leaving, and her head started to ache. It was as if he had lost an important memory. When Xiao Changtian was helping her to detoxify the poison, he had also removed the purple pill that Su Tian had planted in the flower fairy's body. Seeing the medicinal soup beside her bed, the flower fairy also slowly swallowed it. Bang! Perhaps it was because his body was still relatively weak. The bowl of medicine in the flower fairy's hand fell to the ground and shattered. Hearing the sound of the bowl shattering, Xiao Changtian hurriedly walked in from outside. Looking at the broken pieces on the ground, he heaved a sigh of relief. When the flower fairy saw Xiao Changtian, she said to him slowly, Senior, I'm sorry. Hearing the flower fairy call him Senior again, Xiao Changtian was stunned. Could it be that this flower girl had returned to normal? With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the flower fairy, Miss Hua, what did you experience before? The flower fairy heard Xiao Changshan's words and was about to think of something. However, he realized that his head was aching. Aha! The flower fairy held her head and let out a painful cry. Miss Hua, what's wrong? Xiao Changtian saw the flower fairy's painful expression and quickly went over to check. Senior, I don't seem to remember what happened before. Looking at Xiao Changtian beside her, the flower fairy slowly said to him, If you can't remember, then don't think about it. You've just recovered, so you should rest more. Xiao Changtian heard the flower fairy's words and understood. Did this flower girl lose her memory? Could it be that he had been poisoned before? Many guesses flashed through Xiao Changshan's mind, but when he saw the flower fairy's weak appearance, he was shocked. He didn't investigate the exact source. It was good that he could recover. As for the root cause, there would be plenty of opportunities to investigate it in the future, right? Xiao Changtian slowly walked out of the room when he saw the flower fairy lying on the bed. He slowly closed the door of the room and saw the immortal De Yang standing behind him. Senior, someone is looking for you outside. Xiao Changtian heard what the great sun immortal said and said to him, Is there a new patient? The great sun immortal shook his head when he heard Xiao Changshan's words. It doesn't seem like it. I didn't ask him about it, but he said he could only tell me when he saw you. Xiao Changtian was also a little curious after hearing the words of the Grand Sun sect, who insisted on seeing him. He was alone in the cultivation world and had no relatives. No one should have come to visit him. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian said to the great sun immortal slowly, Where is that person now? Senior, he's outside the 100,000 mountains. I asked him to come in, but he didn't. When the great sun immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he smiled bitterly. Originally, he thought that Xiao Changtian knew the person. It seemed that Senior didn't know that guy at all. With this thought in mind, the great sun immortal said to Xiao Changtian slowly, Senior, why don't I chase him away? Xiao Changtian waved his hand at him. Daoist big sun, let's go out and take a look together. Xiao Changtian also wanted to know who this person was. Soon Daoist big sun and Xiao Changtian arrived outside the 100,000 mountains. At this moment, outside the 100,000 mountains, Su Tian was dressed in black. His headscarf fluttered in the wind. When he saw the immortal De Yang and Xiao Changtian walking out of the 100,000 mountains, he was shocked. He was also nervous. Senior, this is the person who wants to see you. After bringing Xiao Changtian to the 100,000 mountains, the great sun immortal pointed at Su Tian and said to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian looked at Su Tian, who was standing outside with a puzzled expression. He did not know this person at all. Hello, may I know why you're looking for me? Xiao Changtian came to Su Tian and said slowly. When Su Tian heard Xiao Changtian's voice, beads of sweat began to drip down his forehead. This person must be the one who had repeatedly disrupted the pavilion master's plans. Could it be that he saw through his purpose of coming here and killed him? As he thought about this, Su Tian said to Xiao Changtian, Senior, I came from a small town. I heard that. He heard that the flower fairy from the small town was here, so he wanted to pay her a visit. At this moment, Su Tian also spoke the words he had prepared beforehand. Hearing Su Tian's words, Xiao Changtian understood. So they were here to look for the flower Jia. I was wondering who would come looking for me. As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian also said to Su Tian slowly, The flower fairy is weak and has just fallen asleep. Is there anything urgent? As Xiao Changshan's voice slowly rang in Su Tian's ears, Su Tian felt a wave of nervousness in his heart. What was that? This person was actually having a friendly conversation with him? Didn't he realize that he was the one who controlled the flower fairy when he said that? In order to confirm his inner thoughts, Su Tian also took out a bottle of pills from his pocket. Senior, I heard that the flower fairy was sick and was quite anxious. This is a pill I found in the town. I hope it can help her. Seeing Xiao Changtian slowly take the pill in his hand, Su Tian was also proud of himself. What he gave him was the purple pill that controlled the flower fairy. If he found out, this person would definitely kill him. Once he made a move, he would also estimate his strength, and then pass it on to the pavilion master. If he couldn't see through it, then this person was very likely to be a fox, using the tiger's might previously. Xiao Changtian took the pill from Su Tian, and frowned after checking it. This seemed to be a type of poison. Why had he never seen it before? Could it be that the person who poisoned them had developed a pill to continue the town? As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian also said to Su Tian slowly, "Thank you. You might have saved the life of a townsfolk." Su Tian was stunned when he heard Xiao Changshan's words. This person really couldn't tell. Could it be that this person was really a fox using the tiger's might? Then Su Tian said to Xiao Changtian, "No, the small town is safe and sound because of Senior's profound cultivation." 1. Chapter 6:15. Is he really immortal? 1 Divine Realm. 100,000 Mountains. Xiao Changtian was stunned when he heard Su Tian's words. Then, she smiled at him and said, "How am I a cultivator with profound magic power? I'm just a mortal." It seemed that when he saved those townspeople, they all treated him as a cultivator with high cultivation. Although he also wanted it to be true, reality did not allow it. He was still working hard. Su Tian heard Xiao Changshan's words, but he was also somewhat unable to react. Mortals? This person actually said that he was a mortal? Could it be that the pavilion master and he were fighting a mortal? As he thought about this, Su Tian's eyes swept over Xiao Changtian. Because he was afraid of Xiao Changtian, he didn't take a good look at him. After scanning Xiao Changtian, Su Tian was certain that he couldn't sense any aura from him. There were only two possibilities. Either Xiao Changtian was too strong, or he was too weak. Judging from the situation just now, this person was really a mortal. Xiao Changtian saw Su Tian's shocked expression and continued, "This is perfected Deyang. His cultivation is the highest here." Seeing that this young man was quite enthusiastic, Xiao Changtian still introduced the Great Sun Immortal to him. Perhaps the Great Sun Immortal took a fancy to his aptitude and gave him some guidance. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he smiled at Su Tian. Senior really went through the tempering of the heart in the mortal world to the end. He was clearly so strong, but he said that he was a mortal in front of everyone. When Su Tian heard this, his gaze swept across the Grand Sun Immortal. Although there was some aura on the Great Sun Immortal's body, it was almost negligible. Su Tian felt that he could subdue him with a casual slap. Then Su Tian smiled at Xiao Changtian and the Great Sun Immortal. "Since the flower fairy is unwell, it'll come back next time." Su Tian cupped his fists at Xiao Changtian and also planned to leave. Xiao Changtian saw that Su Tian wanted to leave, but he did not wave his hand. Then he slowly said to the Great Sun Immortal, "Daoist Big Sun, let's go back too. I think that the poison man is going to make a move soon." Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, the Great Sun Immortal nodded. He looked at Su Tian's back as he left, and felt a little strange. But he couldn't tell exactly where it was. Forget it. Since Senior had already let him go, there shouldn't be any problems. After Su Tian left the 100,000 Mountains, he saw that Xiao Changtian and the Great Sun Immortal didn't chase after him. He sneered in his heart, and became more and more certain of his thoughts. That was also Su Tian's last test. Even Xiao Changtian and Daoist Deyang were pretending. However, he wouldn't be so foolish as to let his enemy escape. Now that they had not caught up, it meant that they really did not know his identity. He had to quickly inform the pavilion master of this news. With that thought in mind, Su Tian turned into a stream of light and flew towards the town. Soon, Su Tian turned into a stream of light and arrived at the small town. After entering the inn, he immediately headed toward the sky of Pil Sol. Pavilion Master Dan Huntian was cultivating on his bed. He was stunned when he heard Su Tian's voice. This Su Tian actually managed to escape? Then Dan Huntian slowly said to Su Tian, "Su Tian, how is it? Are you alright?" Su Tian was no longer as nervous as he was when he faced Xiao Changtian. He calmly clasped his fist at the Pil Sol sky in front of him. "Pavilion Master, this subordinate has already come into close contact with that person. That person is immortal." Then Su Tian repeated his conversation with Xiao Changtian to the Pil Sol sky. When the Pill Soul Heaven heard Su Tian's words, he also frowned. That didn't make sense. That guy was actually immortal? Based on his understanding of him, that fellow should have started off at the immortal emperor realm. With this thought in mind, Dan Huntian suddenly grabbed Su Tian's arm. His spiritual sense probed into Su Tian's body. Pavilion Master, what is it? What's wrong? Su Tian asked as Dan Huntian grabbed his arm. When the Pill Soul Heaven heard Su Tian's words, he also waved his hand at him at this moment. He had just suspected that Su Tian might have been cast with some kind of spirit technique. However, after scanning his body with his spiritual sense, everything was normal. No, there must be something strange going on. How could that person be immortal? With this thought in mind, Dan Huntian slowly said to Su Tian, Su Tian, let's go. Take me there. Su Tian nodded at him when he heard what Dan Huntian said. Under Su Tian's lead, Dan Huntian quickly arrived at the periphery of the 100,000 mountains. Looking at the mountain peak that was surrounded by dense fog, Pill Soul Heaven's eyes also flickered. This fog could actually block his detection? Then the sky of Pill Soul's hand gestures changed as well. A towering palm print formed in front of him. He swung his palm at the 100,000 mountains. Dan Huntian also shouted, Heaven Extermination Seal. The huge palm print carried a huge aura as it attacked the 100,000 mountains. The Pill Soul Heaven looked at the 100,000 mountains in front of it and stared at it too. That palm print just now had condensed at least half of his power. As long as that person made a move, it could be said that Su Tian had already. Thinking of this, the true essence in the Pill Soul Heaven's body also continuously surged. He was ready to kill Su Tian at any time. At the same time, in the 100,000 mountains, Ancestral Dragon was playing in the lake. When he saw the palm print outside, he frowned. Where did this thing come from? It actually dares to attack Master's territory. In the back mountain, the white tiger was also staring at the palm print in the air. He licked his feet. You still dare to come when you're so noob? You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. At various locations on the island, Black Tortoise, Phoenix, Alpha, and the others were also glaring at the palm print. He looked like he was eager to make a move. At this moment, a voice slowly sounded in their ears. I advise you not to attack. They can't break into this array yet. If you disturb Master, you will be in deep trouble. After the Chaos Ant's voice sounded in the ears of these divine beasts, they also stopped their eager movements. After Xiao Changtian received the pill that Su Tian gave him, he started to study it in his room. If he lost control at this time and disturbed Xiao Changtian, it would not be worth it. At this moment, the palm print slowly landed on the 9 Heavens God Sealing Array. Whoosh! The palm print hit the 9 Heavens God Sealing Array. Then, the 9 Heavens God Sealing Formation emitted a dazzling light. Chapter 616. The Might of the 9 Heavens God Sealing Formation. 1. Divine Realm. 100,000 mountains. Pill Soul Heaven stood in the air and looked down at the 100,000 mountains. Seeing the Heaven Extermination Seal slowly land above the island, Dan Huntian said slowly, If you are immortal, then you shall perish. Whoosh! Then, a dazzling white light slowly entered Pill Soul Heaven's eyes. By the time Dan Huntian reacted, he saw that the Heaven Extermination Seal had disappeared. How could his palm print be dissolved? Pill Soul Heaven looked down at the 100,000 mountains and suddenly had a bad feeling. His body flashed, wanting to run outside, but he felt a violent energy fluctuation coming from below. Pavilion Master, save me! At this time, a cry for help sounded in the Pill Soul Heaven's ears. Dan Huntian turned around and saw Su Tian's body being pulled away by a force. Whoosh! 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 Then, a burst of rushing wind sound slowly sounded in the ears of Pill Soul Heaven. Pill Soul Sky looked down and saw 9 flags flying toward him. This was a supreme great immortal artifact? Pill Soul Heaven's pupils constricted when he saw the 9 flags coming toward him. As for Su Tian, he was surrounded by the 9 flags. Under a wave of strangulation, he did not even have the chance to scream before he was reduced to ashes. At this moment, Dan Huntian finally understood why Xiao Changtian was so fearless when dealing with him. It turned out that he had a top-grade immortal artifact as a guarantee. And it was 9. With his current strength he could barely deal with one. However, these 9 supreme-grade immortal weapons attacked him at the same time. He had no chance of defeating them at all. With this thought in mind, Pill Soul Heaven also flew out without hesitation. Now, he only hoped that the 9 flags would not chase after him. Whoosh! Before he could fly for a distance, he felt a cold wind blowing past him. Layers of ice began to appear on his left arm. Seeing the change in his arm, Pill Soul Heaven hurriedly mobilized the true essence in his body. They gathered at his left arm, in an attempt to break the ice seal. Quick, 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 Dan Huntian muttered. When the ice layer appeared, he felt the true essence on his left arm stop flowing. It was as if the whole thing was not his. As he flew, he finally broke the ice on his left arm. Pill Soul Heaven saw a red flag appear in front of him. Whoosh! The red flag shone brightly, and the sky of Pill Soul's left arm, which had just recovered, felt a burning sensation. Ah! No! When the sky of Pill Soul sensed the abnormality in his left arm, his entire left arm also started to burn. The true essence in his right hand surged and directly swung towards his left arm. Whoosh! Pill Soul Heaven directly cut off his left arm. Whoosh! 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 The sky of Pill Soul panted heavily, his eyes already filled with fear. That flame just now was a little too terrifying. It was definitely even more ridiculous than an immortal flame like the Hellfire. If he had not cut it in time, his entire body would have been affected. He was afraid that his body and soul had been destroyed. Looking at the surrounding flags that were still swaying, the sky of Pill Soul did not care about the wound on his left arm. He knelt down in the air and said slowly to the 9 flags, "Seniors, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I apologize for my actions just now. Senior, please forgive me." As soon as he finished speaking, Pill Soul Heaven even directly kowtowed a few times. The 9 flags seemed to ignore him. The 9 flags surrounded him in the middle, and then began to revolve around him violently. Sensing the violent fluctuations from the 9 flags, Pill Soul Heaven was even more frightened. He had been in the human realm upon heavens for so many years. He did not want to die in such a place. "Senior, I was really wrong. Please let me go. I won't dare to do it again." When he said this, some tears flowed down from Pill Soul Heaven's old eyes. If he knew that Xiao Changtian had 9 supreme grade immortal weapons, he would never dare to provoke him. It was already ridiculous enough for an ordinary person to have one. But there were 9 of them. Wouldn't he be invincible? Moreover, there were 9 items that were related to each other. There was simply no way for him to survive. Dan Hunshan's voice echoed in the air. The 9 flags continued to revolve around him. Whoosh! The white flag gave off a burst of light, which acted on Dan Huntian's body. Then he slowly brought him to the island of the 100,000 mountains. After the 9 flags brought Pill Soul Sky to the island, they returned to their original positions. "Big shots, we did pretty well, right?" The white flag landed on its spot, and said slowly to the ancestral dragon and the others. When the ancestral dragon heard the voice transmission of the white flag, he also glanced at him. Why not kill him? This guy actually dared to attack Master. There's no need to keep him alive. Hey, why are you so hot-tempered? I think little white flag did the right thing. This person has repeatedly gone against Master. Isn't it better to let Master deal with him? At this time, Black Tortoise sitting on the fat Rongrong's body also slowly said to Zulong, "You old turtle, you sure have a set of words. I think you'll burn him to death." Phoenix walked out of nowhere, seeing the scorched left arm of the sky of Pill Soul. It seemed like it wanted to burn the sky of Pill Soul to ashes with endless flames. "Old hen, if you want to fight, you can find me. It's so boring to mess with an old man." At this moment, the divine monkey appeared out of nowhere and looked at Phoenix with a smile. Phoenix flapped her wings after hearing the divine monkey's words. "Damned monkey, if you want to fight then come. Why should I be afraid of you?" At the same time, Dan Huntian, who had fallen on the island, heard the voice transmission between Zulong and the others. His body was already trembling unconsciously. Looking at the divine beasts in front of him, the Pill Soul Heaven could not help but slap himself. After confirming that this was not an illusion, Pill Soul Heaven could not help but shed tears. F***ck. What kind of person was he going against? There were so many divine beasts. Even if all the people in his entire clan added up, they would not have seen so many. More importantly, these divine beasts seemed to have owners. A person who could tame so many divine beasts was simply a giant, let alone a big shot. At this moment, a voice slowly sounded in Xiao Changshan's room. F***ck. Xiao Changtian was holding a book on the 100 Methods of Medicine and reading the description. He thought that the system would not give him anything good. He didn't expect that the symptoms of the townspeople this time would be recorded on it. If that was the case, why did he have to study it for so long? This damn system was really... Before Xiao Changtian could finish his words, Immortal De Yang walked in from outside. Chapter 617. So you're here to escape, one divine realm. 100,000 mountains. The great sun Immortal slowly walked in from the outside. When he saw Xiao Changtian in the room, he said to him, Senior, a person suddenly fell from the sky. What do you think we should do? Xiao Changtian was stunned when he heard the words of the great sun Immortal. A person fell from the sky. It couldn't be that some immortal cultivator fell from the sky during a battle, right? In that case, he had to protect the island from being affected. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian said to the great sun Immortal slowly, Taoist Big Sun, let's go over and take a look. At the same time on the island, the sky of Pill Soul's back was already drenched in sweat, as he looked at God King Red Cloud and the others around him. What kind of people lived on this island? What did Su Tian experience to make him think that the young man was immortal? Look at this iron rake and this brick. These are all top-grade immortal artifacts. As far as he could see, it was no less than a dozen top-grade immortal weapons. With such a foundation, even the entire Beyond Avalon combined might not be able to contend against it. You were the one who attacked the island just now, right? Divine King Red Cloud came to the Pill Soul sky with the 9 heavens rake in his hand and said slowly, Senior, no, I just saw a little bug circling the mountain and wanted to beat him down. I didn't mean to disrespect you at all. At this moment, how could Dan Hun dare to admit that he wanted to attack the island? Wasn't this digging his own grave? Hearing the words of Pill Soul Heaven, Divine King Red Cloud also used the 9 heavens rake to lightly tap the ground. Bang! As soon as the 9 heavens rake touched the ground, it emitted a strong energy fluctuation. Pill Soul Heaven felt the blood in his body churn. Is it like what you said? I remember saying that you wanted to kill Senior. No, Senior, you must have heard wrongly. I really saw a little bug tarnishing your land. It really doesn't have any ill intentions towards you. Dan Hun Tian said slowly to God King Red Cloud and the others. At this time, he could not admit it even if he was beaten to death. Then the sky of Pill Soul's remaining right arm also took off the interspatial ring. He handed it to God King Red Cloud and the others and said slowly to them, Senior, please accept this item that I brought as tribute. God King Red Cloud looked at the interspatial ring that Pill Soul Sky handed over and glanced at it disdainfully. Trash like you still wants to be used as tribute. Although the quality of the pills that Pill Soul Heaven took out looked good, compared to Xiao Changtian, they were simply trash. When the Pill Soul Heaven heard Divine King Red Cloud's words, its old face also blushed. In so many years, this was the first time he heard someone say that his medicinal pills were trash. In the past, when those people saw him, didn't they all respectfully beg him to refine pills for them? At this moment, Dan Hun Tian's eyes became moist again. This place was simply hell. At this moment, a voice slowly entered his ears. Divine King Red Cloud, what happened here? As the voice rang out, Divine King Red Cloud and the others also saw Xiao Changtian slowly walking towards them. Senior, Divine King Red Cloud greeted Xiao Changtian when he saw him. Then, Xiao Changtian passed through the crowd and arrived in front of the sky of Pill Soul. He looked at the sky of Pill Soul's severed left arm and the red-framed eyes. Xiao Changtian also said to Dan Hun Tian, Old man, are you all right? What are you doing here? Looking at Xiao Changtian standing in front of him, Dan Hun Tian felt an unprecedented pressure. Although he didn't have any aura, he was just like a mortal. However, he already felt that his breathing was not smooth. He was even more terrifying than the others. As expected, the invisible pressure was the most terrifying. At this moment, Dan Huntian cursed Su Tian in his heart countless times. This Su Tian died too easily. If he returned alive, he would definitely beat up all 18 generations of his ancestors. What kind of person would nurture such a blind person? He actually said that this person was immortal, and that his eyes had been taken away by dogs. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, Dan Huntian said slowly, "Senior, I'm fine. I'm just here to give you a gift." At this time, Dan Hun even smiled at Xiao Changtian. This person didn't make a move just now and directly killed him, leaving him alive. It meant that he still had a chance. Xiao Changtian nodded at him. When he arrived earlier, he saw Pil Soul Heaven handing the interspatial ring to Red Cloud Divine King. It seemed like he was here to look for God King Red Cloud. He had thought that he was some immortal cultivator. Judging from his expression and attire, he was not clean at all. He was probably here to escape. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the Pil Soul Sky, "Old man, is your left arm still okay?" Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, Dan Hun Tian's heart skipped a beat. He had lost his left arm, and now he was asking himself this question. He must be testing himself. If he answered wrongly, he might die here. After thinking for a while, Dan Hun Tian said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, there's nothing wrong. It's all a habit of reaping what you sow." After saying that, Dan Hun Tian also looked at Xiao Changtian nervously. When he saw that desolate elder frowned, he also planned to kneel down in front of him. At this moment, Xiao Changshan's voice entered his ears. "Divine King Red Cloud, I'll leave the rest to you." When Divine King Red Cloud heard Xiao Changshan's words, he was stunned for a moment. Then, he nodded at Xiao Changtian. At this time, Xiao Changtian also said to the Great Sun Immortal, "Perfected Great Sun, since you're not an immortal cultivator, let us go. We still have to find the person who poisoned us." God King Red Cloud wanted to ask Xiao Changtian how to deal with this. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, he understood. He walked to the front of the heavenly concealment Pil Soul and said slowly, "You heard what Senior said just now, right? Do you want to do it yourself or should I?" Hearing Red Cloud Divine King's cold voice, Dan Hun Tian gritted his teeth. Gathering the true essence in his right hand, he struck his chest with a palm. Puff! Dan Hun Tian spat out a mouthful of blood onto the ground. This also indicated that his many years of cultivation had completely dissipated. Pil Soul Heaven looked at Red Cloud and said slowly, "Senior, is this okay?" Pil Soul Heaven, whose cultivation base had dissipated, didn't seem as afraid as before. His tone also changed a little. "What kind of attitude is this?" God King Red Cloud shouted at Pil Soul Sky. Then with a bang, Dan Huntian fell to the ground. Let's go, let's go." Looking at the half-dead Pil Soul Sky on the ground, Divine King Red Cloud said slowly to everyone. Chapter 6:18:1 Know this journey might be difficult for us mortals. 1 Divine Realm. 100,000 Mountains. Xiao Changtian was lying on his rocking chair, taking a leisurely afternoon nap. Originally, Xiao Changtian had planned to go with Daoist Big Sun to catch the person who poisoned him. However, after Xiao Changtian cured the townspeople, they were all shocked. Nothing else happened in the town. This also directly cut off the clues. Since that person did not continue to do evil, Xiao Changtian did not continue to investigate. He could only leave it to the Great Sun Immortal to handle. After all, these things were much more convenient for cultivators to do. At this moment, the system's voice slowly sounded in Xiao Changshan's mind. Ding dong. It has been detected that the host has not made any progress in the mission. Reminder to the host. If the host does not take any action today, the mission will be considered a failure. The system's voice slowly sounded in Xiao Changshan's mind. Xiao Changtian also sat up from the rocking chair. What did this stupid system mean? He was even urging him. If he didn't do it today, would it be considered a failure? He was saying that if he did nothing today, his path to invincibility would be closed forever. While he was thinking about this, he also said slowly in his mind, "Is that what you mean, system?" However, Xiao Changshan's question did not have any effect. The system responded to Xiao Changtian with silence. F*ck this damn system. Xiao Changtian picked up a small stone beside him and threw it forward. After walking back and forth in front of the rocking chair, Xiao Changtian also walked out. He had no choice. Life forced him to do it. If he did not do it, his invincible path would be gone. In order to become invincible, he could only submit to the system's tyranny. Then Xiao Changtian also came to where the Great Sun Immortal and the others were. Daoist's big sun, and the others saw Xiao Changshan's gloomy expression. She also walked over and slowly said to him, "Senior, did something unhappy happen?" Xiao Changtian heard the words of the Great Sun Immortal and slowly said to him, "Perfected Great Sun, do you know where many spirit skills and cultivation methods are stored?" If there was a place that stored so many cultivation techniques and spirit skills, he would sneak in and copy them all with a pen. Putting it in a pavilion, the sutra depository could be completed. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he said to him slowly, "These cultivation techniques and spirit skills are mostly the foundation of a sect. There should be a lot of them in the treasure vaults of many sections." Hearing the words of the Great Sun Immortal, Xiao Changtian continued, "Daoist Master Daong, is there any other place that is easy to obtain other than the sect's treasure vault?" When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he pondered for a moment and then said to him, The other places are all kinds of secret realms and ancient tombs. After some experts died, they would also leave the cultivation techniques they had collected in their lifetime in their own graves. He wanted to leave it for his successor. Xiao Changtian started to calculate in his heart after hearing the words of the Great Sun Immortal. This sect treasury was obviously an important place for cultivators. He was immortal. If he was discovered, he would definitely die. However, those secret realms and ancient tombs sounded even more unreliable. He had personally experienced it the last time. There were so many cultivators fighting for it. If he really participated, he would probably be cannon fodder. At this moment, the Hellfire slowly walked over from the side. "Senior, what are you guys talking about?" Seeing the Hellfire, Xiao Changshan's eyes lit up. He remembered that the Hellfire was a native of this place. Perhaps it could provide him with some help. As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian said to the Hellfire, "Hellfire, do you know where I can get all kinds of cultivation techniques and spirit skills?" When the Hellfire heard Xiao Changshan's words, it pondered for a moment in its mind. Then he slowly said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, if we're talking about the types of spirit skills and cultivation methods, Martial Dao Heaven has more of them." Martial Heaven? Xiao Changtian remembered this name in his heart when he heard the Hellfire's words. Then he said to the Hellfire, "Hellfire, is it easy to obtain cultivation techniques and spirit skills there?" When the Hellfire heard Xiao Changshan's words, he slowly said, "Senior, it should be very easy for you, right?" This senior's strength was definitely the strongest he had ever seen. However, he was definitely not a match for Senior. Senior wanted to see their spirit skills and cultivation methods. Wasn't this giving them face? Hearing the Hellfire's words, Xiao Changtian slowly said to him, "Hellfire, please bring me there." Seeing the Great Sun Immortal beside him, Xiao Changtian said slowly, "Daoist's big sun, if it's convenient for you, please bring us there." Although the Hellfire was said to be easy to obtain, this cultivation method and spirit skill was after all dealing with immortal cultivators. It was better to be safe, so Xiao Changtian also called the Great Sun Immortal. When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he nodded at him. Then, Xiao Changtian thought of something and walked to the other side to find Di Wuzheng. Ever since he brought Futian to the Li Fire sect the last time, Di Wuzheng muttered to himself, asking him to bring her up. It just so happened that he was going to look for cultivation methods and spirit skills this time, so he could bring him along. This way he wouldn't keep thinking about her. Then, Xiao Changtian also brought the old hen and carried the bamboo basket on his back. Everything was ready. He brought the old hen with him so that he could explain himself if he was discovered. He was just a mortal who sold chickens. After all, although the animals given by the system were useless, they were very sneaky. Every time she went out, she could accurately find the way home. Soon, Xiao Changtian gathered everyone together. Looking at Divine King Red Cloud and Divine King Black Sky, Great Sun Immortal said to Xiao Changtian slowly. Senior, Hongyan and He Tian also want to help you. Xiao Changtian nodded at them after hearing the words of the Great Sun Immortal. Although this old man was useless, he had good intentions. He could not let her down. Then, Xiao Changtian slowly said to everyone. Everyone, we're going to the heaven of martial Dao to find some cultivation techniques and spirit skills. I know that this trip might be a little difficult for us mortals. But everyone must remain calm and keep a low profile, understand? In the past, when he was doing system missions, he would go alone. Xiao Changtian felt that it was necessary to tell them about the dangers of the cultivation world. Chapter 619. Xiao Changtian was kidnapped. One divine realm, 100,000 mountains when Taoist Big Sun, and the others heard Xiao Changshan's words. They looked at each other tacitly. Then, they nodded at Xiao Changtian. Senior, we understand. Yes. Xiao Changtian nodded in satisfaction. Then, he pointed to a carriage that was already prepared and said to Hellfire. Hellfire, please bring us there. Xiao Changtian prepared the carriage, because he wanted to bring a few old men with him. If they walked over, wouldn't they suffer? When the Hellfire heard Xiao Changshan's words, it nodded at him. Soon, under the lead of the Hellfire, Xiao Changtian and the others also slowly walked towards the martial path Heavenly Night. Under the control of the Hellfire, the carriage slowly flew across the various heavenly realms. Soon, they arrived at the Avalon of Martial Arts. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Xiao Changtian was dozing off in the carriage when he suddenly heard a series of noises coming from outside. At the same time, the Hellfire controlled the carriage to stop. What's wrong? Xiao Changtian opened the curtains of the carriage and said to the Hellfire. Whoosh. Then a long sword appeared at Xiao Changshan's neck. Feeling the sudden danger, Xiao Changtian was stunned for a moment and raised his hands. Beauty, I have no grudge against you, right? Xiao Changtian looked at the beautiful woman in front of him, who was holding a long sword. When Xiao Changtian was being held hostage by the beauty with her sword, the bodies of the Grand Sun Immortal and the others were also shaken. The true essence in his body involuntarily flowed. Just who was this person? He was so bold to actually dare to point his sword at Senior. At this moment, the longsword beauty said to Xiao Changtian, Cut the crap, bring me in. Xiao Changtian nodded at the beauty. Then the beauty and Xiao Changtian entered the carriage. The beauty entered the carriage and glanced at the immortal De Yang and the others. She heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he met a group of mortals. At this moment, God King Black Heaven, who was sitting in the carriage, also slowly transmitted his voice to the Great Sun Immortal. Taoist Big Sun, what should we do? When Great Sun Taoist heard the words of Black Heaven King, he also responded to him. God King Black Sky, don't act rashly. Senior said to keep a low profile. And this guy doesn't seem to have a high cultivation level. Let's see what instructions Senior has first. At this moment, the beauty also took out the long sword in her hand. Cough, cough, cough. Xiao Changtian coughed a few times when the sword left his neck. One need you to bring me into the city. At this moment, the longsword beauty said to Xiao Changtian and the others. After Xiao Changtian heard the unquestionable tone of the beauty, he was about to kick her out. Seeing the long sword in the bowtie's hand, he immediately turned to the Great Sun Immortal and said, Taoist Big Sun, what do you think we should do? Is there a problem with bringing her in? This beauty didn't need to look to know that she was definitely a cultivator. After all, which mortal would carry a long sword with him for no reason? When the Great Sun Immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he pondered for a moment. This woman attacked Senior, but Senior didn't blame her. Could it be that Senior has taken a fancy to this woman? With this thought in mind, the Great Sun Immortal said to Xiao Changtian slowly, Senior, I don't think there's any problem. Xiao Changtian nodded at her after hearing the words of the Great Sun Immortal. Since the Great Sun Immortal said that there was no problem, he should be able to restrain her. At the very least, the cultivation of the Great Sun Immortal was above hers. As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the longsword beauty, All right, then don't do anything rash. The longsword beauty glanced at Xiao Changtian when she heard his words. Don't feel wronged. You're considered lucky to have followed me. This city is currently hunting down mortals wantonly. If you enter, you will probably suffer. Xiao Changshan's interest was piqued when he heard the words, wielding the long sword. Was this city hunting down mortals? Miss, can you tell me what happened? Do you know Dan Hongi from Treasure Pill Sky? She came to Marshal Dao Sky a while ago to marry a proud son of Marshal Dao Sky. Now in the Marshal Dao Heaven, those proud sons are trying to get the support of the Treasure Pill Heaven. They all fought for Bo de Dan Hongi. Dan Hongi said that she has a hobby. She doesn't like to see mortals. So, if you want to enter the city, I advise you to forget about it. Xiao Changtian nodded in agreement. After hearing so much, he finally understood. To put it simply, there was an immortal cultivator in the city who was about to get married. Those cultivators didn't like mortals, so they drove them away. What was wrong with his luck recently? When he went to Treasure Pill Heaven a while ago, he encountered some ancient tomb of immortal cultivators. Now he was only here to copy spirit techniques and cultivation methods, and he had encountered a cultivator getting married. Xiao Changtian suddenly suspected that the system was picking a time to mess with him. At this moment, Di Wuzheng slowly said to the longsword lady, "Then beautiful sister, why did you escape by yourself?" Hearing Di Wuzheng's words, the beautiful woman's face turned cold as she stared at Di Wuzheng. Sensing the change in the longsword Bowtie's expression, Xiao Changtian quickly said to her, "This disciple is still young and doesn't know any better. Please forgive me if I make you unhappy." Xiao Changtian glared at Di Wuzheng as he spoke. After being stared at by Xiao Chang, Wuzheng also turned his head and ignored the longsword beauty. It seemed that the great sun immortal was right. His master might have taken a fancy to this woman. In that case, it would be fine to have a mistress in the future. At this moment, Di Wuzheng suddenly had many strange thoughts. However, the longsword Bowtie's expression softened a little when she saw Xiao Changshan's smile. "It's better for you to know less about me." After saying that, the longsword beauty closed her eyes and rested in the carriage. At the same time, Xiao Changtian said to the Hellfire outside, "Hellfire, let's not enter the city for now. Let's go to the forest outside the city and rest for the night." Hellfire, who was driving the carriage, nodded at Xiao Changtian. With Senior's strength, no matter what changes happen in the city, it's impossible for him to survive. Seniors should be able to deal with them easily. However, since Xiao Changtian had given the order, the Hellfire still drove the carriage into the forest. At the same time, not long after the carriage left, a few figures appeared in the air. Chapter 620. Have you heard of the Imperial Immortal? B0 See him on the heaven of martial arts, in the forest. In the forest, a cold wind blew occasionally. Xiao Changtian and the great sun immortal were also sitting around a bonfire. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A rustling sound came from the grass. Then, the longsword woman picked up a piece of gravel from the ground. He threw it at the grass in front of him. Bang! The stone hit the grass, and Xiao Changtian and the others saw a wild rabbit running out. "Miss, what's the matter?" Seeing the longsword Bowtie's actions, Xiao Changtian also slowly said to her. The longsword beauty put down her sword and shook her head at Xiao Changtian. "It's nothing. I was thinking too much." Xiao Changtian shook his head and didn't say anything. At this moment, Di Wuzheng walked over with a pile of firewood. "Master, when I came just now, I saw a few men in black who were sneaky, but I beat them away." Di Wuzheng said to Xiao Changtian, as he put down the firewood in his hand. When he went out to look for firewood, Di Wuzheng also saw a few people monitoring them from above. After finding him an eyesore, Di Wuzheng directly killed them on the spot. Xiao Changtian nodded at Di Wuzheng. At this moment, the longsword beauty heard Di Wuzheng's words and said to him, "What did those people look like? What were they dressed like?" When Di Wuzheng heard the longsword Bowtie's words, he also said to her, "You're covered in black clothes, so you can only see a pair of eyes. Speaking of which, those people are really strange. There's actually no shadow." As soon as Di Wuzheng finished speaking, the longsword Bowtie's expression changed. "It's the people from the Shadow Tower. I didn't expect them to have already tracked us here. Xiao Changtian saw the longsword Bowtie's abnormal reaction and said to him, Miss, is there a problem? It was just a few men in black. Was there a need to have such a big reaction? In the cultivation world, there were many people who dressed strangely. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, the longsword beauty also picked up the longsword on the ground. At this time, I won't hide it from you. Although the Shadow Tower isn't my enemy, it's the strongest intelligence organization in martial Dao Heaven. After they track me here, they will soon find my traces. Soon, someone will come to deal with me. Xiao Changtian was shocked when he heard the longsword Bowtie's words. Miss, I wonder who are the people who want to kill you. The longsword beauty thought that Xiao Changtian would run for his life after hearing her words. He didn't expect that he would still be sitting there without moving. Hearing Xiao Changshan's words, he slowly said to him, It's the people from the Heavenly Sword Villa. In order to destroy the engagement with me, they had no choice but to silence me. If you don't want to die, then leave quickly. Previously, he had entered Xiao Changshan's carriage to avoid their investigation. Now that she was discovered, she didn't want to implicate Xiao Changtian and the others. Xiao Changtian heard the words of the longsword beauty and looked at the great sun immortal beside him. Feeling Xiao Changshan's gaze, the great sun immortal said to him slowly, Young lady, don't be too anxious. We'll handle it well. Since Senior had taken a fancy to this girl, he had to cooperate well. Xiao Changtian heaved a sigh of relief when he heard the words of the great sun immortal. Fortunately, he had brought the great sun immortal here. With the great sun immortal around, he naturally did not have to worry too much. Otherwise, even if he ran now, he would not be able to outrun those flying immortal cultivators. After all, how could the speed of running and flying be the same? When Miss Longsword heard the words of the great sun immortal, she also said to them anxiously, The ignorant are truly fearless. Do you know how strong the owner of the Heavenly Sword Villa is? You should have heard of the Pill Soul Heaven of the Treasure Pill Heaven, right? He's an immortal emperor, and the cultivation of the Heavenly Sword Manor Lord is about the same as him. He's also an immortal emperor. Do you know what an immortal emperor is? He's a peak existence among immortal cultivators. Xiao Changtian heard the longsword Bowtie's words and looked at the great sun immortal. When the great sun immortal heard the longsword Bowtie's words, he was also stunned for a moment. Senior, the ignorant are fearless? If Senior is ignorant, then what are you? Then, the great sun immortal said to the longsword beauty again, Young lady, listen to this old man and rest here peacefully. Nothing will happen. The longsword beauty was at a loss for words when she heard the words of the great sun immortal. Did this group of people not have any concept of imperial immortals? Don't tell me you don't know about the Pill Soul Heaven? As for the immortal emperor, he's born with all living beings submitting to him. If you are targeted by an immortal emperor, you will all die. Hearing the description of the longsword beauty, Xiao Changtian started to yearn for immortal cultivators. What can I do to make a move? All living beings will submit to me. This was how the immortal emperor was. What was the great Sun Jinren, who was even more powerful than the immortal emperor, like? If he really used his full strength, it would probably cause the mountains to collapse and the earth to split. The corners of the great sun immortal's mouth twitched when he heard the longsword Bowtie's words. Didn't he remember that the sky of Pill Soul was crippled by Senior on the island? In order to prevent the longsword beauty from making Xiao Changtian unhappy. At this moment, the immortal of Big Sun also stood up from the ground. He walked to the longsword Bowtie's side and slowly said to her, Miss, I think it's still early. Let's go out and find something to prepare for tomorrow. When he spoke, he did not care whether the longsword beauty agreed or not. He wanted to pull her out. The great sun immortal pulled the longsword beauty out of the camp and said to her slowly, Miss, do you know where there are wild beasts? The longsword beauty glanced at him when she heard the words of the great sun immortal. Could it be that this group of mortals did not need to eat food? That's right. After so many years of becoming an immortal, he had already reached the stage of fasting. However, these mortals would die if they did not have anything to eat. Since that was the case, he would help them look for it. With this thought in mind, the longsword beauty also said slowly to the great sun immortal, Come with me. Leave quickly after we finish hunting. It was night time now, so those powerful demonic beasts should be resting. As long as they did not provoke those few people, the demon beasts in the forest could still be hunted at will. At the same time, outside the forest, a few groups of people slowly appeared, each of them riding a white colt and wearing armor. According to the news from the Shadow Tower, Li Xiaotao should be here. Chapter 621. Remember, don't run around 1B0 Znvel. CM on Martial Arts Day, in the small forest outside the city, Li Xiaotao brought the great sun immortal to the forest. After arriving at an empty place, Li Xiaotao said slowly to the great sun immortal, "Old man, you wait here first. I'll go and hunt a few demon beasts for you. Remember, don't run around. Otherwise, if you're captured by a demon beast, I won't be responsible." Li Xiaotao slowly reminded the grand sun immortal, and then she was about to walk into the forest. At this moment, Di Wuzheng's figure suddenly appeared beside the great sun immortal. "All right, Taoist big sun, you didn't bring me along to play." When the great sun immortal heard Di Wuzheng's words, he returned a smile. Li Xiaotao frowned when she saw the fifth person. Then he said slowly to Di Wuzheng, "Since you're here, then wait here with the old man. Don't be playful. There are many demonic beasts in this mountain forest." When Di Wuzheng heard Li Xiaotao's words, he was also stunned. Many demonic beasts? Then he'll be in luck tonight. He just didn't know how strong he was. When Li Xiaotao saw Daiwa's stunned expression, she also walked to the side. From the looks of it, these two people were temporarily intimidated by him. They might not have eaten the flesh of demon beasts before. Diwu saw Li Xiaotao leave alone. He also said slowly to the great sun immortal beside him, "Taoist big sun, I sensed a demon beast nest. How about we go there and do something?" When the great sun immortal heard Di Wuzheng's words, he pondered for a moment. Then he nodded at Di Wuzheng. Originally, Li Xiaotao had taken the initiative to look for the demon beast, so he had planned to wait for her here. After all, if someone was willing to serve him, he didn't have to do anything. Since he was free now, he would follow Di Wuzheng. Seeing that the great sun immortal had agreed, Di Wuzheng also pulled the great sun immortal to the other side. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Di Wuzheng and Immortal De Yang shuttled through the forest. Soon, they arrived in front of a small courtyard. Immortal Big Sun and Diwu were squatting in the grass, looking at the courtyard in front of them. He sighed in his heart. This was the first time he had seen a demon beast build a house like a human. At this moment, there were two demon beasts standing guard above the gate of the courtyard. It seemed that the spiritual intelligence of the demon beasts here was very high. "Taoist Big Sun, let's go in and take a look." Di Wuzheng's telegnosis ability probed the courtyard and knew that this demon beast tribe was a wolf tribe. At this moment in the courtyard, those wolves should be having a banquet. After Di Wuzheng finished talking to the great sun immortal, he also walked towards the small courtyard. "Stop! Whoosh!" Di Wuzheng had just taken a few steps when an arrow landed in front of him. He saw two werewolves standing guard on top of him, holding a bow in their hands and aiming it at him. "If you take another step closer, die." Today happened to be the day of the Wolf Clan's banquet, and the reason why these two people were standing guard was that they were not afraid of the Wolf Clan. It was also because of their previous mistakes. He felt a sense of imbalance when he saw the people below having a party. Now they saw Di Wuzheng suddenly intruding into their territory. The Wolf Guard did not ask Di Wuzheng for any information and attacked him directly. Di Wu looked at the arrow behind his heel and smiled at the two wolf guards on the door. "Big brothers, come down. Barehanded." As soon as he finished speaking, Di Wuzheng also muttered something, and a long sword appeared in his hand. Then, the two wolf guards standing on the door felt a strange power descend on their bodies. His body involuntarily flew towards Di Wuzheng. Bang! Bang! The two werewolf guards were kneeling on the ground, and both of their hands were holding Di Wuzheng's long sword. "Human, you're courting death." Although he didn't know what was going on, when a werewolf guard saw himself kneeling in front of a human in such a sullen manner, he was shocked. He also said angrily to Di Wuzheng, when Taoist Big Sun, who was in the grass, saw Diwu Zheng's spirit skill. He also smacked his lips. Senior's disciple's spirit skill is really awesome. Diwu also ignored the threat of the two wolf guards. He patted their heads and said slowly, "Not bad, not bad. It should taste quite fragrant, but you have to add some master seasoning." Humiliation. He simply collected humiliation. He heard Diwu say that he wanted to eat him in front of him. The two werewolf guards also felt humiliated. At this moment, a wolf guard raised his head and let out a roar. Woo! 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 As the wolves howled, the five of them saw figures suddenly jump out of the courtyard. Whoosh! 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 The wolves in the small courtyard sat around Diwu Zheng, surrounding him in the middle. At the same time, Li Xiaotao, who was searching for demon beasts in the forest, also heard the sound of a wolf howling. At this time, who provoked the Dark Moon monstrous wolf? That wolf howl just now was clearly the horn of the Dark Moon demonic wolf clan's attack. One had to know that the Dark Moon demonic wolf clan's combat strength was the strongest at night. With this in mind, Li Xiaotao also walked towards the Dark Moon demon wolf's tribe. At this time, he could not run away casually. Otherwise, it would not be good to be regarded as an enemy by the Dark Moon demonic wolf clan. At this time, Li Xiaotao also slowly arrived near the Dark Moon demonic wolf tribe. Then a figure entered her eyes. He didn't expect such an expert to live in this forest. He actually dared to slash at the Dark Moon monstrous wolf's shoulder with his sword. Li Xiaotao was stunned when she saw the figure's face. Wasn't this person the young man? Seeing this, Li Xiaotao almost cursed. Those two mortals, didn't he ask them to stand there and wait for him? How did he end up in the Dark Moon monstrous wolf's tribe? It was fine if he walked over. But why did he still use a sword to slash others? Was he really not afraid of death? Quickly take down the sword. At this moment, Li Xiaotao muttered. At the same time, the Dark Moon monstrous wolf that came out of the courtyard also looked at Diwu Zheng. Human, take your sword away. Perhaps we can spare your life. A Dark Moon demonic wolf shouted at Diwu Zheng when it saw its companion kneeling in front of him. When Diwu Zheng heard the Dark Moon demonic wolf's words, he ignored him and said to the great sun immortal, "Perfected Daong. With so many wolves, your Nanming Ignis portrait will probably come in handy. Maybe I can make a whole wolf." Upon hearing Diwu Zheng's words, Li Xiaotao and the Dark Moon demonic wolf, who were walking over, were shocked. How dare this person? Let's go. A Dark Moon demonic wolf said slowly, and then it was about to pounce on Diwu Zheng and the others. Chapter 622. This mortal really doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. B0's Nvel. CM on Martial Arts Day, in the small forest outside the city. As soon as one of the Dark Moon demonic wolves finished speaking, all the Dark Moon demonic wolves present attacked Diwu Zheng. At this moment, the great sun immortal, who was standing beside Diwu Zheng, also planned to take out his Nanming Ignis painting. Respected Lord Dark Moon Demon Wolf, wait. At this moment, Li Xiaotao's voice slowly sounded. Seeing Li Xiaotao, the Dark Moon demonic wolf in the lead also stopped in its tracks. Human, what tricks are you playing again? Humiliating our Dark Moon demonic wolf clan. None of you can escape today. Let me tell you, we have eaten at least 80 mortals in the past few days. As he spoke, the Dark Moon monstrous wolf in the lead even bared its fangs. Diwu Zheng and the great sun immortal were also stunned when they saw Li Xiaotao. This Miss Li, how did she find her way here? At this moment, Diwu also slowly said to Li Xiaotao, Miss Li, you came just in time. Let me tell you, tonight we have a mouth. Shut up. Before he could finish his sentence, he heard Li Xiaotao shout angrily at him. Then, Li Xiaotao took out a token from her pocket and said to the Dark Moon Demon Wolf, Respected Lord Dark Moon Demon Wolf, I'm Li Xiaotao of the Li family. These two are mortals who have just arrived here. They don't know your reputation yet. Please let them off for the sake of the Li family. When the Dark Moon demonic wolf saw the token in Li Xiaotao's hand, its eyes flickered. The Li family in the city had a good relationship with their Dark Moon demonic wolf clan. Every time they transported things into the city from outside, they had to pass through this forest. Therefore, he had also handed over a lot of offerings to the Dark Moon demonic wolf. At this moment, Li Xiaotao looked at the Dark Moon demonic wolf nervously. She did not know if the Dark Moon monstrous wolf would agree. Really, it was all these two mortals' fault. If it wasn't for the fact that they had helped him before, he would definitely not help them. He would just let them be bitten to death by the demon wolves. He didn't even look at his own strength, and still wanted to walk around. After the Dark Moon demon wolf weighed the pros and cons in its heart, it slowly said to Li Xiaotao and the others, "All right, I'll give your Li family face, but you have to ask those two to let go of our brothers immediately. I still have to apologize to them." Li Xiaotao was delighted when she heard the Dark Moon monstrous wolf's words. Fortunately, the Dark Moon demonic wolf was still understanding. Then, Li Xiaotao turned to Di Wuzheng and the Great Sun Immortal and said slowly, "You too, hurry up and thank Lord Dark Moon Demon Wolf." Before Li Xiaotao could finish her sentence, she saw Di Wu walking up to her. Pulling her behind him, he grabbed 2 wolf guards and threw them at the Dark Moon monstrous wolf and the others. "Miss Li, didn't you come here to look for demonic beasts? Now that you've found it, there's nothing for you to do. Just watch from the side." Di Wuzheng said slowly to Li Xiaotao. The Dark Moon monstrous wolf's cold voice slowly sounded in Xiao Changshen's ears. "Human, what do you mean?" Di Wuzheng scratched his ears when he heard the Dark Moon monstrous wolf's words. He slowly said to the Dark Moon demonic wolf, "I say, you wolves should be quite good at fighting together. Why are you so dilly-dallying? If you want to fight, then fight." Standing behind Di Wuzheng, Li Xiaotao felt a chill down her spine when she heard Di Wuzheng's words. This mortal really did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. He had fought for such a good opportunity for him just now, but he didn't cherish it. Instead, he provoked the Dark Moon monstrous wolf here. He was hopeless. At this moment, Li Xiaotao suddenly regretted pleading for Di Wuzheng and the others. These 2 people were courting death. Even if he wanted to pull them back, he could not. She even dragged him down. When the Dark Moon demon wolf heard Di Wuzheng's words, it also said to Di Wuzheng due to Li Xiaotao's identity, "Human, I'll give you another chance. Take back what you said just now and kowtow a few times to our wolf god. We can let bygones be bygones." At this point, the Dark Moon monstrous wolf licked its claws. Hearing the Dark Moon demonic wolf's words, a trace of hope ignited in Li Xiaotao's heart. Fortunately, the Dark Moon monstrous wolf had not completely lost its mind. "This mortal, don't be rash." With this thought in mind, Li Xiaotao wanted to go up and remind Di Wuzheng. However, before she could move, Di Wuzheng's voice entered her ears. "Tell me, why are you fiddling with your claws? It's all bones and no meat at all. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Are you going up or not? Are you afraid? If you are afraid, then obediently submit and become meat in my mouth." Hearing Di Wuzheng's words, Li Xiaotao almost fell to the ground. This mortal couldn't be said to be ignorant of the immensity of heaven and earth. He was simply too arrogant. At this moment, Li Xiaotao also closed her eyes. It was as if he had already foreseen the situation, where Di Wuzheng would be splattered with blood. Di Wuzheng's words completely infuriated the Dark Moon demonic wolf clan. "Die! Awa!" The Dark Moon monstrous wolf in the lead let out a howl and attacked Di Wuzheng. Looking at the Dark Moon monstrous wolf pouncing at him, Di Wuzheng dodged to the side. "Taoist Master Deong, please begin your performance," Di Wuzheng said slowly to the Great Sun Immortal. Then, the Great Sun Immortal slowly opened the Nanming Ignis painting in his hand. The Dark Moon monstrous wolf pounced towards the position of Di Wuzheng, and also saw the Nanming Ignis painting in the hands of the Great Sun Immortal. Whoosh! A scorching flame shot out from the painting. In an instant, all the Dark Moon demonic wolves were swept together. "Aha! What flame is this?" The Dark Moon demonic wolf felt the flames on its body that could not be extinguished at all, and it felt a wave of fear in its heart. Bang! 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 In a short while, under the burning flames of the Southern Flame diagram, all the Dark Moon monstrous wolves on the scene fell to the ground one by one. At this moment, Perfected Great Sun muttered to himself, "I don't know if you've controlled the fire well. Next time, you'll have to ask the Hellfire. I hope it suits Senior's appetite." Li Xiaotao, who was covering her eyes, heard the words of the Great Sun Immortal. He slowly opened his hands. These 2 people didn't die, Then, Li Xiaotao also saw the Dark Moon demonic wolves' corpses on the ground. The bodies of these Dark Moon monstrous wolves were charred black. It was obvious that they had been burned alive. These two people did all of this? Li Xiaotao rubbed her eyes again to make sure that she was not seeing things. At this time, a Dark Moon demon wolf spat out a ray of light from its mouth. Then he fell to the ground and died with a bang. Chapter 623, Dark Moon Wolf King, 1, B0 Zenvel. CM on Martial Arts Day, in the small forest outside the town. After Li Xiaotao confirmed that the Dark Moon monstrous wolf corpses were all over the ground, she was shocked. He also looked at Di Wuzheng and Daoist De Yang in a daze. Were these two still mortals? No, how could there be such a powerful mortal? This was clearly an expert dressed as a mortal. Thinking of what she had said to them before, Li Xiaotao felt a little ashamed for a moment. He was just a puny true immortal, yet he was actually teaching a few immortal kings, or even experts with cultivation bases above a mortal king. At this moment, Li Xiaotao also thought of the time when she met Xiao Changtian and the others. Xiao Changtian was obviously the leader of this group. The cultivation of the people below was so profound. Li Xiaotao didn't dare to imagine what he would say. He had even held his sword against his neck back then. Fortunately, he did not have any killing intent back then. Otherwise he would have died by now. At this time, Di Wuzheng also came to Li Xiaotao's side. Miss Li, don't just stand there. Quickly take these corpses away. If we bring it back, maybe Master will roast a whole wolf for us. Hearing Di Wuzheng's words, Li Xiaotao slowly nodded at him. It was his first time eating the Dark Moon monstrous wolf's flesh. Then, as if she had thought of something, Li Xiaotao said slowly to Di Wuzheng, "Senior, that Dark Moon demon wolf should have sent out a signal of an enemy attack. This is just a branch of the Dark Moon monstrous wolf. That Dark Moon Wolf King is also an immortal king. After receiving the signal, he should be coming over soon. Senior, we should leave quickly." Although Li Xiaotao's assessment of Di Wuzheng and the other's strength was that of an immortal king, they were still very powerful. However, under the circumstances of being an immortal king, the Dark Moon Wolf King had a unique advantage as a demon beast. Their natural speed and powerful physique were not possessed by humans. When Di Wuzheng heard Li Xiaotao's words, he also said excitedly to her, "There are even stronger demon wolves. Not bad. Miss Li, do you know where it is? Quickly bring us there." When Li Xiaotao heard Di Wuzheng's words, she was also stunned. He thought that Di Wuzheng had not heard what he had just said. "Senior, that Dark Moon Wolf King is an immortal king." Li Xiaotao's expression changed. They looked up into the sky and saw a dark golden light chasing after them. He did not expect the Dark Moon Wolf King to come over so quickly. Bang! The Dark Moon Wolf King's huge body landed in front of Di Wuzheng and the others. After his limbs landed on the ground shook violently. At this moment, the Dark Moon Wolf King saw the corpses of the Dark Moon monstrous wolves all over the ground. His eyes turned scarlet as he stared at Di Wuzheng and the others. Li Xiaotao, who was being stared at by the Dark Moon Wolf King, suddenly felt her breathing become uneven. It was over. He was still a little late. This senior looked like a teenager. At this age, it was already a monster to be able to become an immortal king. In the entire history of Heavens Beyond, there had never been anyone who had reached the immortal emperor stage. At the same time, a few wolf cubs walked out of the small courtyard behind them. As they were not adults yet, they had been hiding in the courtyard to watch. When they saw the Dark Moon Wolf King, they all went over and cried. He told him about how they had seen the great sun immortal slaughter the Dark Moon demonic wolf in the courtyard. The wolf cub cried to the Dark Moon Wolf King, while the wolf cub also cried to Di Wuzheng, "None of you can escape today. Humans become our food." Hearing the wolf cub's words, Li Xiaotao also felt a little despair. She slowly said to Di Wuzheng beside her, "Senior, what should we do now?" When Di Wuzheng heard Li Xiaotao's words, he also slowly said to her, "Of course I'm going to fight them. Big Wolf, you came at the right time. I like your thighs. Your legs are so thick. It should taste good." Di Wuzheng stared at the Dark Moon Wolf King's thigh and said slowly. When the Dark Moon Wolf King heard Wu Zheng's words, its eyes lit up with a red glow. He scratched his back with his claws. A vigorous aura rose from his body. Human, go down and accompany your descendants. Whoosh. As soon as the Dark Moon Wolf King finished its sentence, it charged at the fifth boss. The wolf cubs behind them looked at Diwu Zheng and Daoist Big Sun and licked their tongues. Human, we will enjoy your flesh and blood. We will make you feel pain before you die. When Diwu Zheng heard the words of the cubs, he did not pay attention to the Dark Moon Wolf King that was pouncing in the air. Instead, he slowly said to the wolf cubs, "What a coincidence. I have the same idea as you, but I won't let you feel pain." Then, Diwu Zhengshi slowly said to the Great Sun Immortal, "Perfected Great Sun, don't bum this wolf. Let me do it. I can bring it back to Master." Even though he said that, Diwu Zheng's hands were not idle. His hands changed, and then he smiled at the Dark Moon Wolf King. Whoosh! The Dark Moon Wolf King looked at Diwu Zheng in the air. Suddenly, he felt a strange power descend on his body. Bang! The Dark Moon Wolf King's body fell from the sky. Then he ran to Diwu Zheng and knelt down. A pair of sharp claws grabbed the sword in Daiwa's hand. Bare-handed. At this moment Diwu muttered, "Human, what kind of evil technique is this?" Kneeling in front of Diwu Zheng, the Dark Moon Wolf King was also struggling violently. He shouted at Diwu Zheng. However, the Dark Moon Wolf King realized that no matter how much it struggled, it would not be able to escape. It was as if his body had already left his grasp. He was kneeling in front of Diwu Zheng. Wolf King. At this moment, the few little wolf cubs did not react in time. The Wolf King, who was invincible in their hearts, actually knelt down in front of a human. Not bad. At this moment, Diwu Zheng patted the Dark Moon Wolf King's back and said slowly to him, "Compared to those wolves from before, you are still a little stronger." Wolf King, what's going on? Hurry up and eat this human. Wolf King, you kneeling in front of a human is simply a disgrace to our Dark Moon demonic wolf clan. At this moment the Dark Moon Wolf cub, who had yet to understand the actual situation, shouted at the Dark Moon Wolf King. On the side, Li Xiaotao looked at Diwu Zheng, who had subdued the Dark Moon Wolf King on the ground. She was also dumbfounded. Chapter 624. Then you're still too naive. 1B0 CM on Marshal Dao Day, in a small forest outside the town. Li Xiaotao looked at the Dark Moon Wolf King kneeling in front of Diwu Zheng. His heart was also in turmoil. This demonic beast, especially one that had cultivated to the immortal king realm, they all had their own dignity and pride. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible to kneel before a human. The Dark Moon monstrous wolf was an outstanding figure in the demonic beast world, and it was even more so when facing humans. He did not expect the Dark Moon Wolf King to kneel before a human tonight. At this moment, Li Xiaotao realized that she could not see through Diwu Zheng and the others. From the beginning to the end, he was like a clown. He was showing off his skills in front of a few super experts. At this time, Diwu Zheng said to the wolf cubs, "You little wolves, what are you called? All of you come here." Bare-handed. At this moment, another sword appeared in Diwu's hand. Following that, the wolf cubs felt their bodies run uncontrollably towards Diwu Zheng. Just like the Dark Moon Wolf King, he knelt in front of Diwu Zheng. He caught Diwu Zheng's sword with both hands. The Dark Moon Wolf King saw that Diwu was using nutritious moves to deal with its offspring. A pair of scarlet eyes stared at Diwu Zheng. If looks could kill, Diwu Zheng would have died 100 times by now. Sensing the Dark Moon Wolf King's gaze, Diwu Zheng slowly said to him, "Big Wolf, don't worry too much. My master has already taught me that we have to protect wild animals. As for these little wolf cubs, I won't do anything to them. Don't worry." At this point, Diwu Zheng patted the Dark Moon Wolf King's forehead. "I have to think of a way to pack it up first." At this moment Diwu muttered, "Daoist Big Sun, do you have any big interspatial rings?" When the Great Sun Immortal heard Diwu Zheng's words, he shook his head. With his current strength, he did not have the ability to create a spatial ring that could store living things. When Li Xiaotao heard Diwu Zheng's words, she thought of something. Then he took off a ring from his finger. "Senior, can you take a look at this?" When Diwu Zheng saw the ring that Li Xiaotao handed over, he was also delighted. Miss Li, thank you. After saying this to Li Xiaotao, Di Wuzheng also released his control over the Dark Moon Wolf King. Big Wolf, come in obediently. As soon as the Dark Moon Wolf King broke free from Di Wuzheng's restraint, it let out a proud cry. Human, you can't leave. Di Wuzheng received the Dark Moon Wolf King's voice transmission and frowned. If you can get to the sky, and those guys there can save you, then you are still too naive. All of you come over here and catch the white blade with your bare hands. Whoosh! As Di Wuzheng's voice fell. In the air, a winged tiger and a flying crane slowly ran out of the grass. Just like the Dark Moon Wolf King, they came before Di Wuzheng. He knelt down and caught Daiwa's white blade. After realizing that they could not move their bodies, the winged tiger and flying crane said to the Dark Moon Wolf King, Dark Moon, we've all been killed by you. If you want to die, don't drag us along. Actually, when the Dark Moon Wolf King came, they had already been lurking in the dark. Together with the Dark Moon Wolf King, the three of them were known as the Three Tyrants here. Any team that transported goods from the town had to pay tribute to them, as long as they passed through their territory. They had come here because they had received the Dark Moon Wolf King's request for help. He did not expect that he would fall into the same trap as the Dark Moon Wolf King, just by coming over to take a look. Di Wuzheng didn't give them the chance to continue their conversation. Looking at the three demonic beasts in front of him, he was excited. Master will definitely praise me, right? With this thought in mind, Di Wuzheng kept the Dark Moon Wolf King and the others into his interspatial ring. Li Xiaotao, who was at the side, saw that Di Wu was easily taking the three strongest demon beasts in the forest. He was so shocked that he didn't know what to say. At this moment, she did not dare to speculate on Di Wuzheng's strength. Whoosh! Just as Li Xiaotao was looking at Di Wuzheng in a daze, a throwing knife suddenly flew past her. Miss Li, be careful. At this time, the Great Sun Immortal also pulled Li Xiaotao. Otherwise, the flying knife would have pierced through Li Xiaotao's head. Li Xiaotao had escaped death, and her heart was a little panicked. Shadow Double-Edged Sword, the owner of the Shadow Tower? Li Xiaotao muttered when she saw the flying knife that had just attacked. Li Xiaotao, I didn't expect you to be here. It's been hard for us brothers to find him. At this moment, a figure covered in black slowly appeared in front of Li Xiaotao and the others. Seeing this figure, Li Xiaotao also said to him, How can I, Li Xiaotao, be able to make the owner of the Shadow Tower personally chase after me? Based on the price offered by the employer, I am indeed not qualified. However, I didn't come here just for you. As he spoke, the owner of the Shadow Tower pointed at Di Wuzheng, who was fiddling with his interspatial ring. You killed my disciples, right? At this moment, the Tower Master of the Shadow Tower slowly said to Di Wuzheng. Di Wuzheng was currently reinforcing the seal on his interspatial ring, and had no time to pay attention to him. The interspatial ring that Miss Li gave him was big enough. However, their quality was too inferior to his masteress. Di Wu was feeling that if he didn't add any seals, those three demonic beasts would definitely destroy this interspatial ring later. Seeing that Di Wuzheng had not paid any attention to him, the owner of the Shadow Tower's eyes turned cold. Forget it. There's no need to talk so much nonsense with the dead. Whoosh! As soon as the master of the Shadow Tower finished speaking, he swung the dual blades in his hands at Di Wuzheng. The two blades waved in the air, and then two rays of light appeared in the air. Senior, be careful. At this moment, Li Xiaotao also said slowly to Di Wuzheng. Bang! At this moment, a flame also blocked the double blades of the owner of the Shadow Tower. The owner of the Shadow Tower frowned when he saw the sudden flames. I didn't expect to come here and harvest so much, and there was also a top-grade immortal tool. Seeing the Nanming trigram of fire in the hands of the Great Sun Immortal, the eyes of the Shadow Pavilion, that were only exposed to the outside, shone with a scorching light. Taoist Big Sun, they'll have to trouble you first. If this wasn't a person, I think this interspatial ring could still fit. Di Wuzheng said slowly to him, when he saw the Great Sun Immortal blocking in front of him. Chapter 625. Beaten Up the Lord of the Shadow Tower, 1, B0 Zenvel. See him on martial arts day, in the small forest outside the town. The owner of the Shadow Tower looked at the great sun immortal in front of him. He waved the dual blades in his hands. If you think you can defeat me with a top-grade immortal artifact, then you're too naive. 10 Shadow Guards attack. As soon as the owner of the Shadow Tower finished speaking, 10 figures rushed out from the surrounding bushes. He attacked the great sun immortal. When Li Xiaotao saw the 10 black shadows, she felt nervous. The 10 Shadow Guards of Shadow Tower were famous in the heaven of martial arts. It was rumored that each of them was a peak golden immortal expert. Once they joined forces, they could even kill immortal kings. The great sun immortal saw the 10 black shadows charging at him. Without any hesitation, he opened the Nanming primordial fire painting in his hand. Whoosh! Terrifying flames gushed out from the Nanming Ignis portrait. Then, it formed a huge fire dragon beside the great sun immortal. Roar! As soon as the fire dragon appeared beside the great sun immortal, it let out a roar. Aha! The fire dragon was entangled with the 10 black shadows. When the black shadows touched the flames, they let out a miserable cry. Then, they fell to the ground and turned into ashes. Li Xiaotao, who was standing at the side, heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the shadow guards on the ground. She had expected the strength of the great sun immortal, but when she saw the great sun immortal make a move, his heart was still unable to calm down for a long time. As expected of a top-grade immortal artifact, if I had it, I could kill an immortal emperor. At this moment, the owner of the Shadow Tower looked at the Nanming Ignis painting in the hands of the great sun immortal. His desire for it became even more intense. Whoosh! The master of the Shadow Tower made a series of hand gestures, and the 10 shadow guards that were killed by the great sun immortal gathered again. If you think that the 10 shadow guards are so easily defeated, then you are too naive. 10,000 shadows. At this moment, the eyes of the Tower Lord of the Shadow Tower also emitted a black light. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura of the 10 shadow guards became even stronger. These aren't people. Seeing the strange change in the 10 shadow guards, the great sun immortal said slowly to the owner of the Shadow Tower. What do you think? At this moment, the Tower Master of the Shadow Tower also smiled at the great sun immortal with a devilish charm. Then, he took the lead and charged towards the great sun immortal. The owner of the Shadow Tower was so fast that the great sun immortal couldn't catch his tracks with his naked eyes. You're too slow. The Shadow Pavilion suddenly appeared beside the great sun immortal and said slowly to him. At this moment, Li Xiaotao looked at the great sun immortal and said to him, "Be careful." As soon as Li Xiaotao finished speaking, the owner of the Shadow Tower hit the back of the great sun immortal. Whoosh! The figure of the great sun immortal flew backward. What a waste of treasures. This top-grade immortal weapon fell into the hands of a trash like you. I don't know what kind of luck he has. At this moment, the owner of the Shadow Tower attacked the great sun immortal again. Bang! The owner of the Shadow Tower came to the front of Immortal Da and struck his palm, which was covered with black vital essence, at him. At this moment, a palm came from behind the great sun immortal. He clashed with the master of the Shadow Tower. Bang! The two palms collided, and a wave of air was emitted in the air. Then the owner of the Shadow Tower also retreated. It left a long scratch on the ground. Di Wuzheng came to the side of the great sun immortal and said to him slowly, "Perfected De Yang, I'm sorry for letting you suffer a palm strike." When the great sun immortal heard Di Wuzheng's words, he also shook his head at him. It's this old man's fault for not learning well. It's okay, Daoist Big Sunday'll get it back for you. Then, Di Wuzheng walked towards the owner of the Shadow Tower. I see you hiding under your black clothes and doing things that can't be seen in the light every day. You should have some awareness of your profession. You should know that there are some missions that you can't take on. Some people can't be touched. As soon as he finished speaking, Di Wuzheng's figure disappeared from where he was. Arrogant. Hearing Di Wu lecturing him, the owner of the Shadow Tower shouted at him. As soon as he finished speaking, the Shadow Tower realized that Di Wuzheng had disappeared. How was this possible? Just now, Daoist De Yang couldn't see the figure of the owner of the Shadow Tower. Now it was the other way around. The owner of the Shadow Tower couldn't sense Xiao Changshan's location at all. Bang! The owner of the shadow tower looked around. Then he seemed to sense something and looked up. In the sky above him, Diwu was brandishing his sword at him. Then, his body was stomped on the ground by Diwu Zheng. This kick was taken from perfected De Yang just now. Diwu was stepping on the floor of the shadow tower's tower master, as he spoke to him slowly. Then he brandished the sword in his hand. The clothes of the owner of the shadow tower fluttered in the air. The black cloth fluttered in the sky, revealing the face of the owner of the shadow tower. Li Xiaotao looked at the owner of the shadow tower, who had been subdued by Diwu Zheng, and had no strength to fight back. He was also shocked. She had thought that she had no hope of defeating the owner of the shadow building. He didn't expect this young man to be even stronger than the old man. Aha! Under Diwu Zheng's brutal beating, the owner of the shadow tower let out a series of miserable cries. Impossible, how can you have such strength? The owner of the shadow tower was suppressed by Diwu Zheng until he could not retaliate. At this moment, she said to him in fear. Diwu Zheng did not bother with the owner of the shadow tower. Although fighting with others was not his forte, the owner of the shadow tower looked too weak. He couldn't even take a few punches from him. After a while, the owner of the shadow tower fell to the ground and spat out blood. He could not move at all. Miss Li, Immortal De Yang, let's go back. After taking care of the owner of the shadow tower, Diwu Zheng came to the front of the great Sun Immortal, and Li Xiaotao and said slowly to them. When Li Xiaotao heard Diwu Zheng's words, she nodded at him. Then he said to Diwu Zheng, Senior, that person? You mean that person? He's too weak. He should be dead. At this moment, Diwu Zheng said indifferently, this fellow, instead of looking for him, he was courting death. Then, Diwu Zheng seemed to have thought of something and slowly said to Li Xiaotao, Oh right, you can't tell Master about today's matter. Otherwise, it would be a big deal if we disturb Master's cultivation. Master's cultivation? Hearing Diwu Zheng's words, Li Xiaotao was also stunned for a moment before she slowly said to him. Chapter 626. You go first, O cover the tale. 1. B0X and 0VL. CM on the day of martial arts. Outside the town, after Li Xiaotao heard Diwu Zheng's words, she was also stunned. That's right. Master is currently tempering his heart in the mortal world. Don't reveal any true essence in front of Master. When Li Xiaotao heard Diwu Zheng's words, she understood. No wonder he didn't have any aura on him when he met him previously. It turned out that he had hidden his aura, and the difference in strength between him and himself was too great. He couldn't sense it at all. Thinking of this, Li Xiaotao also said slowly to Diwu Zheng, Senior, I know. I'll be more careful in the future. When Diwu Zheng heard Li Xiaotao's words, he also smiled at her. Miss Li, there's no need to be so reserved. Also, don't call me Senior. At this point, Diwu Zheng turned around and said to the great Sun Immortal, Taoist Deong, Miss Li, let's go back. We're waiting for Master to cook barbecue for us. At this point, Diwu Zheng was also very excited. It was obvious that they were very envious of the meat that Xiao Changtian made. When Li Xiaotao saw Diwu Zheng and the great Sun Immortal walking in front, she calmed down. Using Immortal King-level demon beasts to roast meat. Perhaps only the few people in front of him could do it. Soon, Diwu Zheng brought Taoist Big Sun and Li Xiaotao to Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian waved at them when he saw them. Taoist Big Sun, how much did you gain? When Diwu Zheng heard Xiao Changshan's words, he immediately stepped forward. He released the Dark Moon Wolf King from his interspatial ring. Master, look at this wolf. What do you think? Xiao Changtian saw the Dark Moon Wolf King running out of Diwu Zheng's interspatial ring. Her eyes were also sizing him up. Meanwhile, the Dark Moon Wolf King broke free from Diwu Zheng's interspatial ring. He also wanted to escape from this place as soon as possible. However, before his body could move, he felt a pressure descend on his body. At this moment, in the Dark Moon Wolf King's spiritual world, a phoenix covered in flames stood in the air. Under his gaze, the Dark Moon Wolf King also felt the true essence in its body involuntarily bum. Divine Beast Phoenix? Seeing the phoenix in its mind, the Dark Moon Wolf King lost all thoughts of resisting. As one of the ancestors of all demonic beasts, the phoenix had an absolute bloodline suppression on him. It was almost impossible for him to escape from the phoenix. At this time, Xiao Changtian also came to the side of the Dark Moon Wolf King. It looks pretty good, but it's just a little too empty. Looking at the Dark Moon Wolf King lying on the ground, Xiao Changtian slowly said. Di Wuzheng nodded at Xiao Changtian. Indeed, this Dark Moon Wolf King could not be compared to the old green bull that his master had brought back last time. At this moment, Di Wuzheng said to Xiao Changtian, Master, let's roast him and eat him. Xiao Changtian heard Di Wuzheng's words and looked at the night. Well, it was time for supper. Since that was the case, Xiao Changtian slowly said to Di Wuzheng, All right then. Oh yeah. After getting Xiao Changshan's approval, Di Wuzheng also shouted excitedly. At this moment, Xiao Changtian saw the bonfire on the ground and said to the great sun immortal and the others, Daoist big sun, I still need you to go and find some firewood. When the great sun immortal heard Xiao Changshan's words, he nodded at him. At this moment, a voice slowly sounded in Xiao Changshan's ears. Senior, let me go. Hearing this voice, Xiao Changtian also looked to his side. Li Xiaotao came to his side and said slowly to him. Looking at Li Xiaotao, Xiao Changtian nodded at her. Then he'll have to trouble Miss Li. Li Xiaotao heard Xiao Changshan's words and hurried into the forest. At this time, Xiao Changtian said to Li Xiaotao, Miss Li, bring the old hen with you. You can use it to escape at a critical moment. The night had already darkened. Miss Li went into the forest alone. It just so happened to be the period when those demon beasts were active. He brought the old hen with him. At the critical moment, he could even use the old hen as bait. Xiao Changtian was still very confident in the system's ability to give the animal a new level of the world. No matter what he did, he was the first to escape. Li Xiaotao nodded at Xiao Changtian. When he saw the old hen on the ground, he nodded at it. This was probably a hen brought by Senior Red Dust Hearthinking. I didn't expect Senior to have already reached this realm. With this thought in mind, Li Xiaotao also brought the old hen and slowly walked into the forest. After Li Xiaotao and the others entered the forest, Xiao Changtian and Diwu were also dealing with the Dark Moon Wolf King. At the same time, in the forest, a few black shadows landed beside the owner of the Shadow Tower. Tower Lord. Seeing the half-dead lord of the Shadow Tower on the ground, the few black figures said sadly, Big brother, what should we do now? Didn't the OP say that he could come in and deal with Li Xiaotao himself? At this moment, a black figure slowly said to the figure in the center, Tower Lord is here to avenge our brothers. I don't think he ran for long. Brothers, let's chase. As soon as he finished speaking, the black shadows scattered in all directions. They were all disciples of the Shadow Tower, and were extremely loyal to the Tower Lord. The owner of the Shadow Tower only had one characteristic when it came to accepting disciples, which was that he only accepted orphans. Through continuous training, the owner of the Shadow Tower had also trained a group of well-trained disciples. Meanwhile, Li Xiaotao carried a pile of dry firewood to the old hen. Let's go. If someone had asked her to come here to collect firewood, she might have felt very dissatisfied. But now she didn't feel dissatisfied at all. On the contrary, he felt very fortunate. After all, not everyone was qualified to collect firewood for an expert like Xiao Changtian. At this moment, a voice sounded behind her. It's Li Xiaotao. Quick, catch him. Li Xiaotao also looked behind her. Behind him, a few black shadows were attacking him. The clothes they were wearing were the exclusive clothes of Shadow Tower. When Li Xiaotao saw them, she also felt that something was wrong. She was all alone now. Oh no, it was still a hen. Looking at the old hen in her arms, Li Xiaotao also said to him, You go first, the mine will cover the rear. Chapter 627. Miss Li's behavior is so different. Could it be B0XN0VL? CM that she's too embarrassed to ask if she wants to eat. _L on Martial Arts Day. In the small forest outside the town. After Li Xiaotao placed the old hen in her arms on the ground, she also charged at the black shadow in front of her. Although this was just an ordinary hen, it was also a hen that Senior had refined his heart with. He could not allow any problems to occur in his hands. Li Xiaotao, Did you conspire with others to murder the building lord? Tell me, who is it? We can even leave your corpse intact. Li Xiaotao ignored them. He held his sword and clashed with them. Although her strength was similar to the disciples of the House of Shadows. However, the other party had a large number of people, and he was not their match. At this time, she could only hope that the old hen could inform Xiao Changtian and the others. With this thought in mind, Li Xiaotao also looked in the direction of the old hen. The old hen was still standing there looking at him. Seeing that the old hen hadn't left, Li Xiaotao was also a little anxious. She slowly said to him, "Hurry up and leave. I can't hold on much longer." Haha, Li Xiaotao. You still have the mood to care about an old hen at a time like this. A black shadow that was entangled with Li Xiaotao said slowly to Li Xiaotao. Then he gestured to the black shadow beside him. Understood, big brother. The black shadow next to him received instructions to attack the old hen. Li Xiaotao saw the black shadow attacking the old hen. She also wanted to go over and help, but she was tightly held back by the person in front of her. He couldn't get away at all. Oh no! He had forgotten that the old hen in the world of mortals had no spiritual intelligence. He didn't understand his words at all. Otherwise, why would he stand there without moving? Thinking of this, Li Xiaotao was also a little disappointed in herself. Senior had given him such a simple task, but he had not done it well. At this moment, the black shadow that was close to the old hen also slowly shouted at the old hen. Brothers, let's use this old hen together with Li Xiaotao to pay tribute to the building lord. As soon as he finished speaking, a few shadows also held large knives and slashed at the old hen. However, the broadsword did not land on the old hen. The black shadow, and the others also felt their bodies heat up. Then the true essence in his body unconsciously burned. Aha! Miserable screams rang out in the air. Then a few black shadows rolled on the ground. However, no matter what they did not extinguish the flames on their bodies. In the end, amidst a series of miserable cries, the black shadow also directly turned into ashes. When Li Xiaotao and the black shadow brother who was wrapped around her saw this scene, they were also stunned on the spot. What was going on? At this moment, the old hen also slowly walked towards Li Xiaotao. Aha! The black shadow beside Li Xiaotao had yet to react. It let out a miserable cry, and directly turned into ashes on the spot. Then, the old hen walked in front of Li Xiaotao and said slowly to him, "Let's go." Hearing the old hen's words, Li Xiaotao slowly reacted. It turned out that none of the people around Senior were ordinary. He was really a blockhead. Why did I think that the old hen beside you is an ordinary mortal hen? He wondered if Senior Phoenix would know what he was thinking. With this in mind, Li Xiaotao picked up the firewood on the ground and carefully followed behind the old hen. He thought of what Xiao Changtian had said to him before he left. Li Xiaotao's cheeks were burning. When he went to move the firewood, Senior had asked him to bring the old hen. It was obvious that he had foreseen that he would meet with danger. He wanted his divine beast to help him. He had naively thought that Senior was only asking him to bring an ordinary hen. Xiao Changtian and Diwu Zheng were sitting by the bonfire when they saw Li Xiaotao coming back with the hen. Xiao Changtian said to her slowly, "Miss Li, you came back at the right time." Then, Xiao Changtian slowly took the firewood from Li Xiaotao. "Senior, let me do it," Li Xiaotao said to him when she saw that he wanted to help her move the firewood. Xiao Changtian nodded at Li Xiaotao. Looking at Li Xiaotao, Changtian felt that she and Immortal Daong had been acting weird ever since they came back. He couldn't tell what it was exactly. As he thought about this, Xiao Changtian saw Li Xiaotao also put firewood under the stone pot. "Forget it, let's cook first." With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian slowly said to the hellfire beside him, "Hellfire, it'll be depending on you next." The hellfire nodded at Xiao Changtian. Xiao Changtian sat at the side. Sure enough, he felt much more relaxed with a good chef. In the past, when he went out, he would help them cook. Now he had Hellfire, this cheap chef. Not only did he not need to pay, but he also cooked well. It was really comfortable. After Li Xiaotao heard Xiao Changshan's words, she didn't hold the firewood properly. The firewood fell on the side of the head. Hellfire? Why did this name sound so familiar? Li Xiaotao looked at the hellfire in front of her, and seemed to have thought of something. When he was with them previously, I thought they were all mortals, but they didn't care. He did not expect the famous hellfire of the Saint Spirit Sky to be by his side. Some time ago, he even heard that hellfire had become a chef for someone else. He thought that it was groundless. After all, who in the world could make immortal fire cook for him? He didn't expect it to be true, and he even saw it with his own eyes today. At this time, Xiao Changtian came to Li Xiaotao's side and said slowly, "Miss Li, are you all right?" One Xiao Changshan's words interrupted Li Xiaotao's thoughts. The person standing in front of him now was very likely to be a legendary creation immortal. She wondered why he came to the heaven of martial arts. Looking at Xiao Changtian, Li Xiaotao was a little nervous. "No, senior, it's nothing." Hearing Li Xiaotao's words, Xiao Changtian nodded at her. Then he saw the wolf leg that was already cooked on the grill on the other side. Xiao Changtian also walked over and tore off a small piece of meat. He said to Li Xiaotao, "Miss Li, this meat is already cooked. Try it." This Miss Li's behavior was so different. Could it be that she was too embarrassed to ask if she wanted to eat? After all, he had heard in his previous life that many girls were foodies. Yes, that must be the case. At this moment, Xiao Changtian also confirmed his own thoughts. When Li Xiaotao saw the meat that Xiao Changtian handed to her, she said to Xiao Changtian in embarrassment, "Senior, is this okay?" Chapter 628:1 Don't know who spoiled him. This is the B0xN0VL. CM Problem 1. On Martial Arts Day, in the small forest outside the town. Xiao Changtian nodded at Li Xiaotao. "Of course, why not? Miss Li, take it. This barbecue is very delicious." Xiao Changtian seemed to have thought of something. He took out a few bottles of seasoning from his pocket and sprinkled them on the roasted meat. "Miss Li, this way will taste better." Miss Li saw the piece of meat Xiao Changtian handed over and slowly took it from his hand. "Thank you, senior." Seeing Li Xiaotao's shy expression, Xiao Changtian confirmed his previous thoughts. This Miss Li must have been too embarrassed to say it before. It must be like this. Diwu saw Xiao Changtian pass the roasted meat to Li Xiaotao first. He muttered in his heart, "Don't tell me master has really taken a fancy to this woman." As Li Xiaotao slowly put the meat into her mouth, she felt a pure energy flowing through her body. This demon beast meat actually had such a great effect. With this thought in mind, Li Xiaotao quickly suppressed the restless energy in her body. This pure energy made Li Xiaotao feel that her cultivation was about to break through. At this moment, the old hen sensed the changes in Li Xiaotao's body and quickly sent a voice transmission to him. "Don't break through in front of master and disturb his cultivation. You won't be able to bear the consequences." After receiving the message from the old hen, Li Xiaotao quickly said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, that one?" Seeing Li Xiaotao's flushed face, Xiao Changtian said to her, "Miss Li, what's wrong?" Li Xiaotao looked at Xiao Changtian and stammered. Noticing Daiwa's gesture, he said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, I need to relieve myself." Xiao Changtian nodded at Li Xiaotao. "All right." It turned out that Miss Li wanted to relieve herself and was shy. After Li Xiaotao finished speaking, she walked directly to the bushes beside her. After entering the grass, Li Xiaotao immediately sat cross-legged. Then, he immediately digested the pure energy in his body. Whoosh! Li Xiaotao slowly exhaled. Then he saw dark clouds gathering above him. Boom! 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 Was this the lightning tribulation for him to break through to the imperial immortal realm? Li Xiaotao's expression changed when she saw the lightning tribulation in the air. It wasn't that he hadn't seen others transcend tribulation. This was his lightning tribulation. Why did it look like it was much more powerful than others? With his talent, it was simply impossible to reach this level. Could it be that the demon beast meat that Senior just gave him had the effect of changing his physique? Li Xiaotao's expression turned solemn as she thought about this. Gathering the true essence in his hand, he struck out at the black cloud above him. However, when the palm wind entered the dark clouds, it did not cause any effect. Instead, it seemed to have angered the lightning tribulation. Boom! 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 The lightning tribulation in the sky seemed to have become even more furious. Dark clouds covered the sky, and it was about to attack Li Xiaotao below. At this moment, Xiao Changtian looked at the dark clouds in front of him and said slowly, "What's the meaning of this weather? Why did it change so suddenly?" These dark clouds were obviously a sign that it was going to rain. He was still camping outside. The rain had ruined everyone's mood. At the same time, Li Xiaotao looked at the dark clouds above her, and her expression became even more fearful. If this heavenly lightning fell, would he still be able to survive? As she thought about this, Li Xiaotao also looked in Xiao Changshan's direction. After Xiao Changshan's words, the hen also looked up into the sky. "How dare you disturb master with such a small lightning tribulation?" Whoosh! Inadvertently, the old hen spat out a tiny flame from its mouth and flew towards the lightning tribulation in the air. The thunderbolt in the air seemed to be very afraid of the old hen's flame. Before the old hen's flame could arrive, the dark clouds in the sky quickly dispersed in all directions. At this moment, Li Xiaotao was preparing to deal with the lightning tribulation. Seeing the lightning tribulation in the sky disappear, he slowly heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. He originally thought that Senior was already powerful enough. He didn't expect Senior to be stronger than he had imagined. Senior's strength in dealing with the lightning tribulation should even make the heavenly powers fear him. Senior, what kind of expert is he? At this moment, Li Xiaotao looked at Xiao Changshan's position, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. At this time, the great sun immortal also said to Xiao Changtian slowly, "Senior, I also have something to do." On the island, there were all kinds of immortal artifacts. The lightning tribulation did not stop above the island. When the great sun immortal broke through, he did not see the lightning tribulation at all. However, when he arrived at the heaven of martial arts, he felt that his thunder tribulation was gathering. At this time he could not disturb Senior. With this thought in mind, the great sun immortal said slowly to himself. Soon, the great sun immortal also arrived in the bushes. When Xiao Changtian saw Taoist Master De Yang leave, he also looked at the roasted meat on the grill. What was going on? Why did Miss Li and Immortal De Yang go out to relieve themselves? Was there something wrong with the meat? However, he didn't feel anything abnormal. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian picked up another piece of lean meat and put it into his mouth. It was tender and moist, delicious and juicy. It didn't seem like there was a problem. At this moment, another clap of thunder sounded. Boom! 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 Hearing the thunder, Xiao Changtian frowned. Heavens, is it over? It looked like the weather had cleared up just now. Why was there thunder again? As Xiao Changshan's voice fell, the old hen hurriedly looked up into the sky. This time, the black clouds dispersed before the hen could release her flames. Xiao Changtian muttered as he watched the dark clouds in the sky disperse. God, I don't know who spoiled this. With this thought in mind, Xiao Changtian sat beside the bonfire and continued to eat the Dark Moon Wolf King's meat. At the same time, Taoist De Yang, who was in the grass, saw his lightning tribulation disappear. He heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. As a person who had never undergone a lightning tribulation, if he really had to fight against the lightning tribulation, he would be able to escape. He really didn't know what to do. With this thought in mind, Taoist Big Sun also looked gratefully at the old hen. Then, Taoist Big Sun and Li Xiaotao slowly walked out of the grass. Chapter 629. Heavenly Sword Villa, 1, B0XN0VL. CM on Martial Dao Day in the city. At this moment, above the glorious palace, a few elders sat on the chairs above them, and a woman in red sat on the seat below them. At this moment, the red-clothed woman slowly said to the few elders above, Heavenly Sword Manor Lord, since you're interested in a marriage alliance with our Pill Pavilion, I'm sure you'll agree. There has to be something to express. Otherwise, I can't say anything to Grandpa. After a battle in the town of Martial Dao Heaven, the two of them were finally able to escape. As expected, the Heavenly Sword Villa was valued by the Elixir Pavilion. Seeing that the Heavenly Sword Manor Lord did not respond, the red-robed woman continued. It is said that your family's young master has a marriage alliance with Li Xiaotao of the Li family. What should we do? Hearing the red-clothed woman mention this sensitive topic, Heavenly Sword Manor Master also stood up. With a smile on his face, he came in front of the woman in red. Hangi, I admire the pavilion master of the Pill Soul Sky. And you might not know this, but a few days ago, that kid of mine went to break off the engagement. And we can get rid of Li Xiaotao very soon. The red-robed woman covered her mouth and chuckled when she heard Heavenly Sword Manor Master's words. As expected of the Heavenly Sword Manor Lord, I believe that when this news reaches Grandfather will definitely be very satisfied. However, Heavenly Sword Manor Lord, this is a form of damage to my reputation. So, what do you think of the condition that Grandfather proposed? Seeing that the red-robed woman didn't turn hostile, Heavenly Sword Manor Master was also delighted. For cultivators, being able to form a partnership with a pill pavilion that mainly focused on pill concocting. After that, the family's wealth and resources would increase by many times. The attitude of the woman in red made them feel ecstatic. Then, Heavenly Sword Manor Master slowly said to the red-clothed woman, Hangi, don't worry. I know you're filial. I'll help you deal with your grandfather's enemy. At this moment, Heavenly Sword Manor Master waved his hand, and a few figures walked in from outside. Hangi, these are the most outstanding swordsmen of our Heavenly Sword Villa. Their cultivation bases are all at the Immortal King realm. But if they really want to cooperate, even an immortal emperor might not be their match. He pointed at Swordsman and introduced him to the woman in red. Then, Heavenly Sword Manor Master said to them, The few of you, go and destroy this lower realm for me. This can be considered my first betrothal gift to the Pill Pavilion. As soon as the Heavenly Sword Manor Master finished speaking, the swordsman bowed to him. Then he disappeared from the hall. Hangi, I hope you will like this first betrothal gift. The red-robed woman smiled at him when she heard his words. How could Hangi not like the betrothal gift given by Uncle Tianjian? Then Red Shirt will be leaving first. The Heavenly Sword Manor Master laughed at the woman in red. Then I'll send you off. After sending off the red-clothed lady, Heavenly Sword Manor Master turned to an elder beside him and said, How's the matter with the Li family going? Hearing the words of the Heavenly Sword Manor Lord, the elders beside him hesitated. Manor Lord, we've encountered some trouble. It's said that Li Xiaotao seems to be protected by a strong expert. The Shadow Tower has been destroyed. Pa! A loud slap slowly sounded in the air. You can't even do this kind of thing well. You're really trash. The Heavenly Sword Manor Master looked at the elder beside him and said angrily, It's fine if my good-for-nothing son is like that, but you guys are also good-looking but useless. Then he slowly said to the elder, Who else can we use in the village now? The elder hurriedly got up when he heard the furious voice of the Heavenly Sword Manor Master. Manor Lord, you just sent those swordsmen away. At this moment, the elder spoke with a hint of helplessness. A small lower realm actually needed so many immortal kings to take action. Hearing this elder, Heavenly Sword Manor Master kicked him again. Bang! After being kicked by Heavenly Sword Manor Lord, this elder immediately did a backflip. You're really trash. After cursing at the elder, the Heavenly Sword Manor Master slowly said to the elder, Pass on my order. Send Li Xiaotao's family to the sword jail. I wonder if Li Xiaotao will come to save his parents after she gets the news. Hearing the words of the Heavenly Sword Manor Master, the elder immediately walked out submissively. Watching the elder leave, Heavenly Sword Manor Master waved his hand. The stone table beside him exploded. He had just told the woman in red that he had settled the Li family's matter. If news of this spread to the Pill Pavilion, and the marriage alliance failed, the development of the family would be delayed for many years. At the same time, the red-robed woman gave him a deep look after leaving the mansion of Heavenly Sword Manor Master. When she was in Treasure Pill Sky, the red-robed woman also saw the soul jade pendant of Pill Soul Sky shatter. He knew that the Pill Soul Heaven had met with misfortune in the divine realm. Therefore, she wanted to borrow the fact that the death of the Pill Soul Sky had not been confirmed. He had to borrow the power of Martial Dao Heaven to take revenge on Xiao Changtian. Clenching her fingers tightly, the red-clothed lady slowly exhaled. The current situation was not bad. He was one step closer to his goal. At the same time, in the forest outside martial arts heaven, the elder of the heavenly sword villa slowly appeared in the air with a letter in his hand. He threw it at the forest below. Whoosh! The letter tore through the sky and quickly landed in the forest below. At this time, he was about to bring the great sun immortal and the others into the city to see Xiao Changtian. When he saw the letter falling from the sky, he was also stunned for a moment before he looked up into the sky. There were no birds flying by, so why would an envelope fall? Li Xiaotao, who was standing behind Xiao Changtian, saw the bow on the envelope and quickly said to Xiao Changtian, "Senior, that letter should be for me." Xiao Changtian heard Li Xiaotao's words and slowly handed the envelope in his hand to Li Xiaotao. So it was for Li Xiaotao. He was wondering why a letter would fall from the sky for no reason. The method of sending letters in the cultivation world was really special. They actually used this method of airborne delivery. Li Xiaotao looked at the envelope in her hand and quickly opened it. The reason why she was so sure that this letter was for him was because she was a little worried about him. It was because the bow attached to the letter was the one his mother had always worn. Looking at the contents of the envelope, Li Xiaotao's eyes turned red. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.